Invasives will take it over.
Okay,
If you're
okay.
not-
You guys are good to start. If Angel, if you want to open your side up first, then you can do
Yes.
PRG.
So welcome, everybody. I'm going to be running the meeting today because Mayor Joe is on an airplane. He wishes he could be here to call in, but he is unable to at the moment. So we're going to call the meeting to order.
Okay, and on behalf of the PR&G meeting, we are here to call the meeting to order at 9:01 a.m. on Monday, March 2nd.
Okay, now, council needs to authorize remote participation.
Okay, can I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to allow remote participation by members of council.
All in favor? Aye. Okay,
Aye.
Okay? And you guys are good to move on to the adoption of the agenda.
okay.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as it is written.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
And now
Okay.
PRG needs to do the same.
Okay, and for PRG, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as published. All in favor? Aye. Motion passed.
And now PRG needs to adopt the minutes.
Okay, motion to pass the minutes from the February meeting and January meetings that were attached in the meeting packet. All in favor? Motion passed.
All right. PRG Board election of officers. Each March, the PRG Board has to reelect their chair and vice chair. Are there any nominations from PRG for chair?
I nominate Christina Schraub.
I
a second, third, and fourth.
Thank you.
No, with no other nominations, congrats, Christina.
Well,
And now,
thank you
and now
for
Vice
that,
Chair.
We are efficient.
Now Vice Chair.
Now we're going to the vice chair.
I
Yes.
nominate Christina Cole.
My second.
I'll take that.
Without any other nominations, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, public comment. Let me grab the sheet. First up is Kim Vandenberg, 806 Cappington Lane.
Good morning, Council, Park, Rec, and Greenway. My name is Kim Vandenberg, 806 Cappington Lane. I am here to address transparency and decisions on the Marvin events and actions involving some the advisory boards, especially removals. Village events have been well attended and supported in surveys, including the most recent one. I understand you're discussing ending multiple events. If so, please clearly explain why. These decisions may disappoint residents, and transparency on the reasoning can only help understanding and feedback, including mine. Residents recognize council's appointment authority, but when experienced individuals are removed, particularly under what seems to be a new precedent, the community deserves a clear public explanation. Transparency should apply to the rationale and process, not only the outcome, and it should be offered without repeated questioning. In this instance, an experienced planning board member with legal expertise and institutional knowledge was removed. One explanation given was that the member lacked vision for Marvin. That framing implies that disagreement is a liability. It is not. Questioning direction and offering alternative views is healthy. Analytical perspectives reduce bias, they don't create it. If differing views become grounds for removal, advisory boards risk becoming aligned bodies instead of independent ones. If ordinances and procedures matter, why remove legal expertise? If diversity of thought is a goal, how does removing unique experiences increase it? In this case, diversity was reduced, and yet Councilmember Eck cited diversity as justification, which was contradictory. When residents ask questions about your decisions, the response has too often been divisiveness, defensiveness, or silence. In a recent joint meeting, it was stated with visible frustration from Councilmember Eck that this was not the proper forum for concerns. If not there, then where? If removals cannot be addressed in a public meeting, how can they be addressed? On civility, after being told the joint meeting was not the proper forum, I contacted Councilmember Tom Eck to ask what that correct forum would be. The call was dismissive and ended abruptly. You were rude. And this is not the first time, including toward my 16-year-old son. I requested a return phone call to finish the conversation, and I'm still waiting for that call. That is not respectful engagement. It has been suggested that raising questions could be libelous. Spoken or not, or slander, not libel. You guys should get that right. And asking governance issues is neither. Questioning policy is not defamation, it's participation. Claiming defamation over questions signals thin skin, not strong leadership. This council signed a resolution pledging to practice and promote civility. Civility is not selective. It does not apply only when the room is friendly or the question's easy. Walking past residents without acknowledgement, cutting off conversations, and responding with irritation or implying consequences when asking questions, that is not civility. Raising questions is not misconduct, it is oversight. If questioning direction puts board members or residents at risk of removal or retaliation, that sets a troubling precedent. Strong leadership welcomes scrutiny, it does not react to it. Residents are asking for clarity, transparency, and respectful engagement, even when the questions are inconvenient. Transparency builds trust, civility sustains it, defensiveness weakens it, and threats destroy it. Thank you.
There are no other comments. You're free to proceed.
Okay, so we're going to do some introductions, since I don't think we know everybody. Fred, do you want to start?
Sure. Hello, everyone. It's nice to meet you. I'm Fred Ilaraza. Anything else?
And I'm Bob Nunnan, camp. I think I know most of y'all.
I think you guys are probably sick of me, but you all know me. I'm John Barasich. I am the PRG liaison for the council, so I regularly attend these meetings and bring back and forth information to and from council.
And I'm Angel Martin, and it's nice to meet all of you, and I look forward to working with all of you. Yeah, Tom, you want it? Tom and Bob?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Tom Eck. I think I've met a few of you over the last few months, so good to see you and good to meet the rest of you.
And I'm Bob Markleese. I've met a number of you, of course, and thank you for your service and what you're doing serving on the board.
All right, and then I'm going to be introducing the PR&G board, and I feel like obviously great to meet the council members, but probably many of you do not know maybe the depth of the roles that folks have had here, so if we could spend a few more minutes, I know we're still on track with the agenda.
Yeah.
Austin, but again, I just want to kind of summarize a little bit about our group, and of course have everyone as an individual share a bit about themselves too. But
Okay.
as a whole, you know, we have a 5-member PR&G board, really representing a broad diversity across Marvin, residents who've been here long-term, newer members, and a variation of community involvement skills. We definitely have large neighborhoods represented, individual homes, and then again, just different talents I'd like to share. Individually, folks will share what their backgrounds are, but Deb here has been very involved with the Marvin Day, very involved with community and small business. Jen's got a tremendous background in landscape design, her passion for gardening, and just the overall outlook as how to manage programs as a whole has been impactful. And Christina Culp, who many know, has been a real leader around the Habitat Builders, her conservation efforts and involvement with design especially.
Is your mic on?
It is.
Okay.
With the parks and landscaping. So just kind of to understand the talents that our group has, as well as Michael Vatrone, who's not here today. Michael's a younger member and definitely represents another diversity of kind of engagement with the community. He's very involved with activities and just kind of that hands-on guy who's kind of always showing up for events. So just to kind of get a picture of who we are, and then briefly about my background. I've been on PR&G for 2 years now. Finished up a career in banking of over 20 years, but prior to that, I was a recreational therapist with a degree in recreation and parks. So it's been an opportunity to kind of come back to where I started, leave the financial services world behind, and really have been a longtime resident and enjoyed watching and working with this team to continue to build our space.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're escaped corporate people.
That's it, right? We found it, yes.
And celebrating.
Yeah,
no
so.
kidding.
Yeah, and so I don't want to speak for y'all, but give a little more if you like.
I don't think there's any much more to say. I'm with Christina number 2 or 3, depending on how you count them. And I think I've been on the board, I think I've been on here since 2020 or 2019.
2019, I believe.
Yeah, 20 what?
2019.
All right.
Okay, there we go.
That makes you a fixture.
A fixture,
Absolutely.
really. I've been here almost as long as I've lived here.
Yeah, but don't understate the efforts. I mean, certainly the work you've done on design and impact on the roundabouts and then the village hall.
She's also known as the plant lady, so.
Yeah, so I'm Jennifer Castellucci. I'm probably second to Plant Lady. We are the resident
just
plant
got
heads
more.
on this board, since Bob left us. So that's been my primary contribution has been, organizational. I was chair previous to Christina, but had to, Christina, but had to step back due to just not having the time that the role demanded. And so I was very happy to hand it on to Christina with her background, and she's done a marvelous job. I think with that, I'll turn it over to Deb.
My name is Deb Sokol, and I'm a Marvin resident of over 13 years. And for the last couple of years, I've helped with organization for the 5K Fun Run and Marvin Day and other annual events, just volunteering my time to whatever way is needed to help things run smoothly. I enjoy doing that. I enjoy doing a lot of volunteer work with nonprofits, and I do a lot of community engagement with a business that I help with in Valentine. So, and I just want to say I really appreciate Christina and John and all of you. You do a great job. I've really enjoyed serving with you.
Thanks, Deb.
Thank you.
And John, I'm going to tell you that, no. Christina, to me, is the bat lady. okay? I'm just, you got any more pet bats? Okay, thank you.
And not the moth lady, too?
Oh,
She's
yeah,
a-
I'm soon to be
Yeah.
a moth lady. Yes, that's this year, the year of the moth. Oh, yeah, Luna moth, see? I'll wear it.
Well, thank you for giving us that time.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so Christina, you have a presentation for the Wounded Heroes? Yes, I'm going to invite Stephen, is it Rosina? Rosina. You can just come up to that podium. And then do you have his presentation?
And you need to turn
Hit the button,
microphone on.
yeah.
Hold on, sorry.
If you don't have the presentation,
You can start with your
I'll
organization.
I'll talk about the Independence Fund and kind of tell you guys who I am real quick. So my name is Stephen Rosina. I'm the Deputy Chief Operations Officer at the Independence Fund. If you don't know about the Independence Fund, we are a national veteran nonprofit, been around since 2007. We like to say we were born in the halls of Walter Reed. And we were born out of the necessity to help our catastrophically wounded veterans gain their independence back. And what that means is, if you look back at that time frame, that 2007, 2008 time frame, we had men and women coming home from war that were literally and figuratively missing pieces of themselves. So it started out with our mobility program and helping veterans. Maybe it was they needed running blades or they needed ways to be able to navigate their new normal and gain their personal independence back. Since 2007, we've grown. We have over 13 different programs now. Everything from an advocacy team, which is comprised of a few individuals that live up in the DC area, that their only job is to beat on the doors of our elected officials like you guys, and hold them accountable for what our veterans deserve, right? We've given away over 3,000 track chairs, which is, if you haven't seen a track chair, it is a motorized wheelchair on steroids. It's got tank treads instead of wheels. So we're able to get men and women back out to enjoy the outside and be able to do those things. Our CEO, Sarah Verardo, is a resident of Marvin. She became our CEO, the company's first CEO in 2017. Her husband, Michael, served in the 82nd Airborne. He was catastrophically wounded in 2011. Michael lost his left leg, lost his left arm in an IED attack, suffered from severe traumatic brain injury. The story about that injury actually goes back a week prior. Michael actually was injured in combat a week prior and was in the hospital, was given the option to go home. And he said, no, I need to get back out with my guys. A week later, they hit another IED, and he had that catastrophic incident. Michael sadly passed away 6 months ago. I think it was Friday. It was 6 months here in Marvin. Back in 2021, no dice on the presentation?
So I actually looked through my emails. I didn't have one from you, but he's trying to pull up the 95% plans.
Okay, that's fine. I think it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I looked.
It's
couldn't
fine.
find it.
Well, back in 2021, the state of North Carolina, the governor at the time made April 24th Wounded Heroes Day. If you're not aware, I think we did maybe our second Wounded Heroes Day celebration here at the town of Marvin. If you're not aware, it is a day to celebrate all of the North Carolina veterans that came home wounded. But it is the day is very special because April 24th is Michael's Alive Day. And a lot of people don't understand what an Alive Day is. Our veterans say that's the day that their life changed. And by the grace of God, they're still alive. So that is Michael's Alive Day. I think, how long has the Independence Fund and the town been working on this? Maybe?
Probably 2 or 3 years.
But I think 2 or 3 years, and to do this courtyard for our wounded heroes, and especially in Michael's honor, to have a courtyard here for our veterans. And it's really a nice place. It's not overly extravagant, but it is a nice, peaceful place.
So while he's still trying to find the plans, if he can find it, you guys have seen the courtyard plans, but it's literally right outside of my office where the flagpole is, and it's essentially like a star inlay. We'll find it in the old agenda packets, or either we'll send it to you so you could see visually what it's going to look like. But the plan was for them to kind of do this project in conjunction with the park project. Our timelines didn't match up, so here we are 2 or 3 years later. They are working right now with their engineers on permitting and DEQ, and so once that's all finalized, they will be able to pull the trigger on construction. They do have funding. But we're just working on the permitting process right now, so this is what it's going to look like that's on your screens here in front of you.
And those are benches?
I believe so. Where the red is, I believe, the darker. Is that right, Christina? I believe it is.
Does that legend say what it is?
Yeah, seawalls.
That'll be a bench.
Yeah. I knew what you meant.
And I don't know where you guys are on permitting, but I know that you had spoken with DEQ and you're working.
Yes, Seaman Whiteside is the engineers that we're working with. I think they're pretty close. I sent another follow-up email Friday and this morning to double check on that.
And the last conversations that we had, they were planning to have this done before the Wounded Heroes Day. That probably is not going to work out because of the permitting, so we're going to do like a groundbreaking event for the Wounded Heroes. So.
Yeah.
And I think that pretty much summarizes
I think
everything,
so.
unless y'all have any questions.
Well, I think right now, with everything in the last 72 hours is the perfect time for everybody to kind of take a step back and, think about all those that put themselves in harm's way to protect us all. And I've been supportive of this project for the past couple of years since I've been on council, and more than anyway, just want to say thank you to you and all the vets, some of who serve still on council and so forth, that do what you do to protect us and to allow us to have the freedoms that we have. But thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question, maybe Christina, you can answer. So this design here will represent the overall program and also honor Michael, it's Michael, right?
Michael, yes.
Will he be honored in that space too with
I think they're on the plaque. I think that's what it was for Wounded Heroes in honor of Michael Varda, I believe.
Yeah, unfortunately, he passed away, somewhat recently, so I don't know if that's actually been encompassed in the actual plan, but I'm sure that's the intent.
Okay.
His wife is the one that's kind of behind this, so I would assume she would want some type of addition for him. So we'll come back later at some point and figure out how we're going to do that. But there's plenty of opportunities there. So.
And I guess the other question is, because it's long-term, is the idea just kind of a general, and it's a beautiful place, and I like the sentiments that John said about recognizing our veterans in active duty, but folks who are out there. But will this kind of continue to honor future wounded vets? I mean, or is it just kind of an overall place, not going to be individual names of folks who've,
Yeah, so I think the intent at some point in the conversations in the last 3 years had some level of like engraved pavers concept. We've discussed that. We're trying to figure out the feasibility of that, but there's always the opportunity for plaques, and we would have the bronze plaques, similar to what's on the front of Village Hall. We could do something like that as well.
You could do that on the wall.
Okay.
And to be fair, it's very difficult when you start incorporating the wounded, what is wounded, who gets left out, and things like that. So it makes it, even with things that we do, is it what happens after, all those things. So it makes it hard sometimes for those individual names.
We're not a very big village though, so maybe
Right.
there wouldn't be that many. I hope not.
I think it's more about the definition is what you're saying.
That's exactly, it's that definition that makes it difficult. So if
All wounds are not obvious.
exactly, and that is very much where we are today.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So it's really a place of reflection and overall, I think that's beautiful. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the just having the space and the purpose of the space overall is well worth the effort, and I thank you for your perseverance that it took.
Well, thank you all for your perseverance.
I've been behind this from the first time that I heard about it, and I'm glad you kept after it, so thank you.
Can we make sure that the plants that we're putting in the rest of the park kind kind of convey over here. Does that make sense? It doesn't look, there's a lot of them.
I don't know that y'all have a planting list yet. so
Not
we
yet.
haven't
We
gotten
don't
to that
have one
detail.
yet. I think with the contractor, we'll make sure that we
When you
That
get
we
to
coordinate.
that, at least she and I will,
We got a person for
will
you
have
to talk to.
opinions. Bob will have opinions as well, I'm sure.
Well, it says evergreen, but there are plenty of native evergreens, so that's easy.
And if you get a chance to look back through your email, I can't find the presentation, so if you find it, just send it and I'll shoot it over to
Oh,
them.
absolutely. Yeah, not a problem.
Thank you for all your help.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Okay, so we are now going to hear a presentation of the Houston Ross Park Water Feature by Pondscapes of Charlotte.
So I will introduce Bradley.
I hear the frog.
Bradley and I have been working together for probably 3 or 4 months now on a water feature concept for the Houston Ross Park. We met with him about a month ago to discuss kind of a new feature that's called water harvesting. So I wanted him to spend some time chatting with you guys about this. The council has on their agenda tonight a subsequent change order for the engineering of this. But Pondscapes has been generous enough to have donated the product at cost and the labor at their cost. So we're getting a really good deal on this project. They would like to have a little rock that sits in front of the Pondscape to highlight that this is their work. So I'll turn it over to him and let him show you some kind of examples. We did have the picture that you're going to see here is kind of the inspiration for what we're looking for. And I'll turn it over to him and he can discuss further.
Awesome, thank you. First, Mr. Markleese, how you doing? We did some work for his pond and familiar face, but yeah, so I'm Brad with Pondscapes of Charlotte, and we are a family business, local. I grew up off of McKee Road, went to McKee Road Elementary School, and I love the idea of this project. You know, I love the park, and I love water features and building them, and this is, you know, the community that I live next to, and we do a lot of work here, so I would love the opportunity to be able to build a water feature for the park. That's a little inspiration that we have. That's actually my neighbor's house that we did a water feature for, and it's similar to the design that we have right now for the park. And I'm open to working, you know, with the village and Christina, and, you know, however you guys see this fit best, I'm open to working with it. But if you scroll down a little bit, I have like a conceptual design. Basically, you're gonna have like a natural water feature coming down with waterfalls. You're gonna have like a seating area with large boulders where you can sit down, and you know, it can be a place of rest, it can be a place of education. And then it's gonna go down another set of waterfalls, and it's gonna fall into, you can scroll down, this is good, a large underground reservoir. And this is the coolest thing about this water feature, is designed to catch runoff and rainwater from surrounding areas and actually store it underground. It's completely hidden, but what this is going to do is it's going to be able to collect rainwater without it rushing down, and it'll use it by recirculating it through the natural ecosystem. So proposed is a 5,000 gallon basin, but this can be a 10,000 gallon basin all the way down to a 1,000 gallon basin, whatever is going to best fit for the village, you know. But this is one of the things that's very like forward thinking. It's a really cool idea, educational, and it could be an example for, you know, good water practices and stuff just for, you know, different towns and even homes and stuff. If you scroll down a little bit more, okay, this is gonna be the fun part, keeping the community involved. So all the time we're doing Facebook Lives, Instagram, photos. We're huge on photos and videos. So while we do the project, we'll keep everybody informed, daily updates, and then photos of the project. So, you know, years later they can look back and see how was this built, you know, what's under my feet, 5,000 gallons of water. Yeah. And then Okay, so my dad started this business 2002, and then I was, growing up, taking over. I'm 32 years old, plan on being here in the next 25, 30 years. I love what I do. I love water features, and I want this to be a showcase project for Pondscapes of Charlotte. So this is what I'm proposing is, we donate the labor, building the water feature, and then after that, we take care of the water feature at no cost to the Village of Marvin. In return, the materials, the stone, the machine is all purchased by the town of Marvin at cost, okay? So, and then the engraved stone. So that's an engraved stone that we have. We've done features at like Pike's Nursery and stuff. We just have like a little rock, very classy, And so whatever we decide on, and if you scroll down, this is my full shebang. Like, this is gonna be awesome, all the products, the machines, the stone for, the water feature design, $31,957. And is a project that we would sell for $130,000. So this is an awesome project, but depending on what the village wants, it could be scaled up, it could be scaled down, whatever best fits, so.
I love this idea, y'all. I love this idea.
One thing that I wanted to note too is I've seen your presence in many of our different community events and things like that over the years. I know you guys have participated in Marvin Day stuff, and other times when we go out and we ask for vendors, I recall consistently seeing you guys as somebody that's supported Marvin in that way too. So I think that makes a difference as well.
100%. Look to continue. Trunk or treat. That was fun.
Trunk or treat. That's another one.
That's a good one. So I was,
Hey, Brad, it's Tom Eck. First of all, thank you for this. I mean, it looks incredible. Really appreciate the deal that you cut for us, and really appreciate your engagement with Marvin. I just had a kind of more of a technical question on the basin itself, because water retention and stormwater is kind of a big deal right in that area. Just want to get your thoughts on whether you think of how does a 5,000 gallon basin rank in terms of, like, is it small, medium, or large, or what's your thinking on the size of that?
Great question. Great question. I would say it's medium. They did rainwater harvesting in Africa where they stored water from all the roofs in a school. And this was like 6 years ago. I went down there. And I believe that basin was like 4 times the size. It was like a 20,000 gallon reservoir. So they can get really big. But 5,000 gallons is enough to be a nice sized, collect some water, and eventually, like anything, it could get filled, but it's not small. So the smallest would be like 1,000 gallon reservoir. But, eventually, if you get too much rain, it's going to fill up, so 5,000 is good question. So if it fills up, there's going to be just an overflow on it. And I think it'd be cool to have it like kind of go into like a bioswale area, and basically just follow the grade like water falling on the ground would. Yeah, no extra water is being added. Once it's filled, the raindrops that fall in the pond there's one raindrop that goes in, one raindrop that goes out, if it's full, if that makes sense.
And we had talked about, with the 5,000 gallon, that we could potentially hook it up to our irrigation.
So that would be so cool. That'd be next level. If we had, I wouldn't go less than 5,000 gallons if we do that, but you would need a separate pump that would pump to your irrigation. And if we got into that, then we would need to have somebody that does irrigation, that knows, the pump and all that to do it. But it's 100% possible. It's just, we're gonna have to time it to make sure that, you know, it can only be on for so long unless, you know, you have a bigger reservoir. And, you know, we figure it out and figure out what's best. Even if it was just around the pond, then like, you know, we could have it on a timer and explain it, how it works to everybody. That would be really, really cool.
So
And-
just so everyone's
And I
aware.
believe we have
Yeah, we already have that set
irrigation
up as
planned for the
part-
other cistern too.
Yeah, as
Yeah.
part of this park design, they installed a 5-foot tall pipe that operates as an underground cistern, and it is supposed to contain a pump that connects to an irrigation system as a backup.
It doesn't have a pump. We would have to add the pump in, but the cistern was.
The original plans were supposed to include a pump.
I think it was to be implemented later
Yeah.
for the irrigation piece of it.
It
Well,
has the,
but you have to have the pump inside it first. Well, there's an access, I'm sure.
so the cistern does have the capacity to do the same thing for
Yeah.
irrigation, but we would need to go back and add a pump to it, just so you're aware.
But yeah, that was part of the original intent of that cistern pipe, was to put a pump in it and connect it to the irrigation system so that we can draw down
It'd do a
the water
similar
that's
purpose.
stored and then make more capacity, because, you know, you know, you have a rain barrel and one good rain fills it up, and then you're kind of like, what was the point of that? I now have a rain barrel. I mean, you can use it, but, so I think that this, the scaling of this project, would just be complementary to what we've kind of already put in here, and given, you know, a really good rain, we could always use any more storage that we could get.
What is the cost difference between a 10,000 and a 5,000 gallon reservoir?
Another great question.
And what is the practicality of implementing it with this program?
Okay, so I did not go up to a 10,000, but I went from a 1,000 to a 5,000 when I was pricing it out, and it went up like $10,000. Okay, so roughly $10,000, $15,000 more would double the size of the basin. The practicality is just how much water, how
much water do we actually have running over?
or do you want to use and stuff? You know, if you had a 10,000, you could run the irrigation double the amount of time or double the amount of space.
Well, there's also too, there's a lot of underground infrastructure, so it's also going to be dependent on space, what's there.
Yeah, how much space do you need for the 5,000 gallon versus the 10,000 gallon? Because it's kind of limited over there.
Yeah.
It's the biggest space in the world.
100%. So every time, you know, we're building like a basin, you know, sometimes we run into stuff we don't know is there. Sometimes they're called aqua blocks, and they're, you know, a modular unit, and you can stack them on top of each other. You can go out wide. You can go in different shapes. So
Yeah, but
Am I-
let's face it, digging this soil deep is a horrible situation. I mean,
Yeah.
wide is easier to do, but I get your point.
in my presentation, I had like a layout for the aqua blocks for the 5,000, and I can't remember the feet that it was, but
But we can look at that on the plan and say it's gonna take up this much space, and 10,000 would potentially take up
yeah.
twice that much space, and then just sort of running out of space. It's important.
So double stacked for 5,000 would be 15 feet by 16 feet. And then keep in mind, like, when we finish this off, like, we actually have the footprint look a lot smaller, so we can have plants basically on top of the reservoir, but you won't really, it's not gonna be a 15 by 15 big space.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
so.
And then the other thing, though, that's part of this park is that rain garden.
Mm-hmm.
And let's not forget how much water that thing's gonna hold, because that has got to be one of the biggest rain gardens I've ever seen, anyway. So I mean, I don't know how many gallons, but it will hold quite a lot of water.
Yeah.
So we could do the math on that.
But even so, we obviously, I mean, kind of
Which
like
is
your
true.
initial question is, what if it fills up? And
Yeah,
so, assuming we fill that up, and so that will
Oh, you
definitely.
will fill it up.
Yeah, exactly, and then it's gonna run off, and then potentially run off into this reservoir if we connect them a little bit somehow, maybe. Or it just catches what's coming down on a different part of the property, so, but I think those are all logistics that get worked out, but I think in principle, I think it's an amazing existing offer, and I think it would be a beautiful addition that, makes this civic area like something for, Marvin residents to be proud of.
I would take it as another opportunity for education too, because somebody's gonna want one of these in their backyard, maybe me.
Well, that's what he's counting on.
To me, it's like a giant rain barrel.
But I think, yeah.
It's just a rain barrel I've always
You see it
wanted.
that way, other people see it as
Right.
a pretty
It's-
thing,
well,
but
it's a
I have
sensory,
admired
too.
the one at Pikes often enough, so.
No, I mean this,
Yeah.
this underground reservoir.
Oh, the
That's a
reservoir thing,
giant
yes, yes.
rain
So,
barrel.
so I think that's wonderful because you've got the pictures and the process, so from an
Yeah.
education standpoint, you have that. But I'd also say, in the last 9 months, we've been talking about the features of the park, and sensory garden was a big part of what we were talking about,
And the pond.
visual and sound, and that's why I feel like this is such a compliment. We didn't have anything from the sound, and this is really gonna add
And
to.
he promises us frogs.
I do have one last question about this, though, is in your design is when the pump, I assume there's a pump then that is taking the water from the reservoir, feeding it back up and creating a
Correct.
waterfall, and that mostly it cycles back on itself. I had one at a previous house, and that was how it was done. And so my question is if the pump is off, is there any standing water?
Good question. So
Or does it go, does
The-
the water level drop below a gravel base and it looks, doesn't have standing water? I guess partly from a liability standpoint, do we always have, or mosquito standpoint, do we always have water?
So in the reservoir, no, we'll have the overflow below the gravel, okay? But this is, the way these are designed are like an ecosystem, so we should always have the pump running for water flow and for purposes. And,
So it is a 24/7?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
You have two questions here. On the reservoir, because I'm still stuck on this, do you know how much water's in it? Is there some kind of meter that tells you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Not really, not that I know of. There's like a viewing point where you can see.
Pop-up floaty thing.
Yeah, literally, there's like a little viewing point, but it's kind of hard to see and stuff, but it's not, it would be like checking your oil, That's a good reference.
Just a question, you mentioned ongoing maintenance and you would be performing that, but I'm just wondering, what happens with the underground cistern in terms of buildup over time with silt or things like that?
So once a year, we do a full clean out and stuff, and that gravel sitting on top of those aqua blocks catches a lot of the leaf debris and the stuff that basically flows down the stream. And we take out those rocks and basically remove the debris, and it doesn't get a chance to really go down to the bottom. But even so, there is a vault access to the very bottom where, if we needed to have access to pump out sludge, we could. But in my experience, the gravel on top catches a lot of the stuff before it gets down there.
Thank you.
I've got one last question. Going back to the reservoir, we're gonna have more development, not less. We're gonna have more runoff, not less. And I would just like PRG to consider maximizing this reservoir. And I know space is limited and cost is an issue as well. And the question I have for you is, I'm assuming, Fred and I were talking, that we can do this incrementally. It doesn't have to be 5,000 or 10,000, it could be 7,000 or whatever the space allows.
Yeah.
But I'd like us to anticipate what's happening in Marvin and plan for that.
Yeah, it's 100% customizable to size, yeah.
Thank you.
So we do have a couple kinks we need to work out with our engineer and getting a plan set, because the CO that you guys have on your agenda tonight does include them getting a CAD drawings over to us. I don't know if you guys have the capacity to do so, but we'll chat further offline. You all will have to come back and we do have to do a scope amendment from Part F. I do believe there's funding available to do this project, but I will have to consult with our Part F grantor to make sure we've got that in the scope of work amendment change. So Bradley and I will work together offline, come back to you all for official action at a later date. It will more than likely be put on council's agenda, not PRG's, just from a formality standpoint of getting approved and getting the timelines met. And then I just ask our liaison to update you guys as we see fit. We have established a small working group with myself, Mayor Pro Tem, and Christina Culp to go over some of the final design elements. So we'll continue to have those conversations as we need to when we're formalizing the actual final design plan. And then him and I will continue to have those conversations until we can get on the same page. But some of the questions that you have in terms of like the logistics of the size and the capacity and all that, the engineer would probably be a better person to handle some of those questions, but unless y'all have any other questions.
I do have one, but just because you and I were talking about them putting sod, I'm probably pointing in the wrong direction, but putting sod out here, would we not do that so that, because we're gonna do this? I mean, there's no point in putting down sod and then digging it all up to put this in the ground.
Yeah, I can't stop that now because we've already ordered the change order, and it's
Yeah.
just, that's a little bit of a mess to try to stop it. And I don't 150% know that this is gonna go through. We've got to do the scope amendment, we've got to make sure we're on the same page with the engineers, and I don't want to stop that. Unfortunately, it's just something we're gonna have to dig up if we have to.
Can we resell it, dig it up and
Yeah, you just,
Okay.
cut it right back out. You
Yeah,
get a sod cutter and cut it
We
right
can
back out.
repurpose it, right? So
Any other,
Somewhere else.
That's
Put
what I'm
it right back
saying.
on top of it.
so any other questions? No? Thank you so much.
Awesome,
Yeah,
thanks, guys.
We're excited.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you for your work on this.
Okay, so we wanted to talk to you guys about potentially expanding the PRG board to 7. Our planning board is at 7, our council is at 7. You guys may not feel like you need the help, and that's fine if you don't. We just wanted to ask you if that's something that you might want us to consider.
Okay, and I don't know, I think folks have seen a little bit on the agenda, so definitely welcome the feedback from the group as a whole too. As we talked about, we've got a pretty complete, board as it is today, and I think historically, John and Bob would know, I think it's been always a 5-member board, at least from the history, as far as meeting needs and such. I think one thing just to look at is, concerns with just the scope of what we have in place today, knowing that there is limited investment in future greenways and parks and the activities. I feel at this point, we have the capacity to support, but I certainly want to hear from the rest of the team.
I agree with what you just said. It sounds like we're starting to dial back community events. I mean, actually, we were already we were just getting reports. I mean, when we had Tyler running that kind of stuff, we weren't really managing them. When we started the looking at the Greenway Master Plan, I actually had that question for council then. Is what is PR&G's role? Do we even need us? Like, what are we doing? Like, what do you want from us? And so given the new council, I'd be kind of curious, or, the new composition of council, be kind of curious what the vision is for what we are going to do. But based on what I'm anticipating, I don't see that we would need to expand. We already have a pretty good diversity of roles and opinions. And although the stipend is, not going to break the budget, I don't know that adding another 2, expensing another 2 roles on the board is worth it, simply for symmetry. So if there's enough work, but I'm not feeling like we're overworked. But I would defer to you because you do all the work right now, so.
Well, and I mean, I know that we've cut back on a couple of events, but we are going to talk about a farmer's market, and I have no idea how that's going to, is that going to be twice a year? Is that going to be monthly? Is it going to be quarterly? Is it going to be biweekly? We don't know. So I know there's a demand for it, and I mean, that's obviously something that we would want and need your help with. So that's why I put it out there. But again, I mean, it sounds like you guys don't feel like you need it at this time, and we can always revisit it if it's something that you feel like you might need in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that if it turns out that, we have, if in the event plan, and we're not necessarily event planners. I know Bob with the very first Marvin Day being on the board, PR&G board for that was overwhelming, and everybody, and you too, was like, this is not what we do. We're like, we are not event planners,
Right.
you know?
Right.
But as far as helping to direct those things, and Deb is indispensable in that regard of finding vendors and coordinating like that. So, you know, so if it became a thing, I guess, where we felt like we needed additional hands on deck, then we could revisit that.
Okay.
But until we have a better feel for what we're actually doing,
Okay.
I think it's a little premature to sort of, you know, change the recipe.
Yeah, I would add that, you know, I think when we go back to, you know, so much used to fall on PRG board because it was really just us. We didn't even have as much staff, and certainly prior to having Tyler previously, you know, there was a lot that fell on. And I think that will be somewhat of a need in the future, where I think we will need someone to kind of step up and be more of a volunteer coordinator, you know, at least until we figure out what we're doing, whether we're placing Tyler with a similar role or whether we're looking at a different role, or we're just looking to reinvest those funds in other areas. So that piece of it is still kind of out there to be considered. But, you know, you know, we appreciate all that you folks do as volunteers. And, you know, I think really we want to make sure that we're not overburdening you at the time. I know we'll be discussing some of the events in a later piece here. So I think as we get some more feedback from other parts of council, we'll have a little better idea. And in terms of, you know, what the role will be, at least for this coming year, and as this new version of council gets their feet underneath them and, you know, kind of understands, you know, what's worthy in investing and where we might want to shift resources, we'll also be able to give you more guidance on the direction. And certainly as your liaison, I'll always look to try to relay that as accurately as I can from council.
Thank you, John. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, when we had Davey and Tyler, the scope of what PR&G did changed dramatically.
Right.
So without those, I think all of us collectively are just sort of feeling our way forward. So for
Okay.
right now, I think a change would be premature until we see what that looks like.
Okay.
Great. I would just add too, on the volunteer piece too, I feel like in the last 2 years, we've also seen significant support from the community. The Young Men's Service League has really stepped up for all of our events, and I think we have a really good relationship there. Obviously, Habitat Builders comes in force, right, for the impact they do on the park. So we've got a lot of legwork from just the community, and I think that's something, you know, as a village, it makes sense. We get the community involved. It's not just people sitting on a board. We've got, you know, different age groups and different populations volunteering. So I think if anything, that should be our charge, is to get more hands in the community than just on these boards, so.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. You're up.
Okay, next topic is the discussion of spring events, or just any events as a whole. I know as a PR&G, we did not have our meeting last month, which was February, and since I think that followed the council retreat, so really this was more of a kind of update for us as some decisions that were being made around overall events and community activities. As we've talked about, we do recognize Tyler is no longer here to help organize, but the impact of those we've all seen, and again, we've talked about the volunteerism, the small business involvement has really been, you know, very impactful for the community. We saw in the survey, you know, feedback, folks want to see the holiday events, they enjoy the camaraderie of connectedness, and so I think as a whole, we've been kind of concerned about some changes that may be coming, and first off, we want to make sure we're level set on what decisions were made so that we can plan appropriately.
Okay. Well, so council at our retreat talked about the spring events that were coming up fast and furious, and we decided to cancel the Easter egg hunt because it's very labor intensive, and we don't have a Tyler here now, and it was a lot on staff, so we canceled that. We didn't have a sponsor for the 5K, so we canceled that. And Marvin Day, what we'd like to do is, instead of doing it annually, do it like every 3 to 5 years, you know, in conjunction with like an anniversary of Marvin or something, to do that. But keep the Halloween, keep the Christmas tree lighting, and definitely want to branch out because the community's asking for a farmer's market, and we don't know how intensive that's going to be. I mean, we could do something like an Autumn Treasures, like Waxhaw does in the fall and maybe the spring, and test it and see how that works. Or, I mean, I don't know, we need to talk about that. We need you to talk about that and get your ideas too. Am I forgetting anything?
Are we still doing trick or treat for Halloween?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Arbor Day?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
One thing that it didn't take much investment from the village, but I think went over very, very well was there was a car show that we
Oh,
did
yeah.
as well,
Yeah, we're
which
gonna do that
I
too.
think that
Yeah.
brought a lot of folks that may not have even known we
Yeah.
had a park, or it brings a lot of kind of eyes to it. I'm not sure. I know it was mentioned about the 5K. Certain types of events, and one of the things that I do have some concerns with, and even speaking about Marvin Day being every 3 to 5 years, is that part of some of these events is that you're trying to build them over time and building momentum. And while I understand, especially without Tyler, the unique circumstances that we're in right now as we're trying to kind of figure out how we're going to handle that, because right now, between that and not only Tyler, but Davey being gone and, us from a public works, Christina's wearing more hats, Jill's wearing more hats. So I think part of it was we wanted to be sensitive to, what's going on with staff right now, but I think some of these things, with the justification and as we kind of build back, the 5K, I wasn't sure that it was a sponsorship thing.
Christina, didn't we have a sponsor?
It's not a sponsored event.
It's a vendor for the actual,
vendor, okay.
For doing the actual 5K. It takes someone to organize the packets, the running the race, setting up the timing and all that stuff. We had a vendor, it was rumored they were closed. We had not officially checked with it yet, to my understanding.
I have checked.
Okay, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so that's the biggest challenge with the 5K. If council had decided to move forward, I would have already been working on trying to just find a new 5K vendor. I did talk to a few companies. There are quite a few in the area, but the one that we were working with does seem to have stopped offering that service. But it was an event that paid for itself through registrations. So it was a net zero for us, but there is still possibility to possibly have one and maybe just move it to the fall, depends on what council decides to do, because I think the community really enjoyed it.
It was a very popular event.
Yeah. We used to have, for many years, the Run for the Ridge, which was sponsored by Marvin Ridge High School, and I was very much involved with that. That has since, I think the last couple of years stopped, but this kind of took over, so as a community, 5Ks have always been very popular, and we have a lot of running groups with the Let Me Run and the
Girls on the Run
program, and those coaches have told me they wanted to be more involved with the 5K. So we have some real opportunities of running communities. We've got the cross country and high school teams and middle school teams. So I think that is an opportunity to bring a large population. And as you said, if it pays for itself, I guess I'd ask the council to see if perhaps that's something within PR&G we can help as far as looking at volunteer groups that could support.
Yeah, and girls,
Do the 5K Arbor Day run. Run the street.
well, I mean, Girls on the Run uses Efford Park. Like, they have a summer camp there, and they do things there. And I think a great opportunity for the 5K, like a lot of the other communities, the 5K will end in like their downtown or in a commercial district, and they'll have lots of vendors out there. And you finish the 5K, and there's all businesses that are open kind of out in the street. And it's a great opportunity commercially, right, to bring people to the town and get them to use those things. And it might be better if we could swing it to use Newtown as the place the 5K happens, so it ends at Publix maybe.
We also did it, well, that's true, if we have a safe route, but I think we definitely leveraged the elementary school and brought vendors in as well, too.
Yeah, we attempted to make a similar, except it wasn't brick and mortar businesses, but we invited businesses to set up booths, and at the beginning and end of the 5K, you had an opportunity to walk around, visit vendors. They had raffles and things like that. It gets more complicated to try to do a major thoroughfare like Providence or Newtown. As it is, we have to apply with NCDOT to get permission to shut down roads or shut down lanes. It would be a lot more complicated to do something involving one of those major thoroughfares. It's not completely unreasonable, but it would be a lot more red tape to jump through.
Totally, I mean, not like this year, but maybe like planning
Yeah.
down years out, that might be a really neat thing to do, that would really possibly bring a lot of people to Marvin, because, I mean, when do you get to run down Newtown, right? Like, that'd be kind of cool.
How many times do you have to go around the Marvin Eford Park trail to get 5K?
It's 1.7 if you do 2 laps, so
Just saying,
twice,
trail run,
four laps, I think.
Well, there
trail
are
runs are a big deal.
there are currently groups that are using Marvin Eford for 5Ks. There's a charity group that called Let's Include Landon that has a charity 5K event there every year. I think we opted not to do the park because it is a trail run, which can make it a little bit, I don't know, I think there was some concern that it makes it a little bit more risky or potentially harder for older people or young people who might trip over roots or something, I don't know, or couldn't have strollers and things like that. So I think that's why we loved having the elementary school component and using part of our loop greenway in the neighborhood. But I'm open to whatever. I think if anybody does want to pursue maybe having a 5K this calendar year, but pushing it off more towards the fall, if I could get a commitment from you all to maybe help find a 5K company, the rest of the work is not that bad. It's mostly promoting it and submitting information to NCDOT about the race, and especially if we have to close some roads. But I just don't have the capacity to take on trying to source a new vendor. But it's also something, if council wants to move forward with it, I would have to put it in the budget as both a revenue and an expense, even though they'll cancel each other out. I do have to build it into the budget, so.
Yeah, and if I could share a little bit more just on Marvin Day in and of itself. Marvin Day is certainly, I think, as, you know, previous council and this council, I think one of the goals that we have is to build and create more of a sense of community within Marvin, rather than, you know, be a conglomeration of a lot of subdivisions. And when I say Marvin, you know, that also includes many of the people that are Marvin adjacent, that we go to school with, we work with, all those things. Marvin Day used to be almost entirely funded through vendors and sponsors and so forth. So I think one of the challenges that we saw this year especially is that, and we've seen it in the past couple of years, where we didn't necessarily have on council the ability to get all the same sponsors, but one of the things that I know that's been floated, at least, you know, with how we potentially replace Tyler or anybody with other positions, is more of like a project coordinator position or something like that. And I think if we were to move in that direction at some point, you know, that's an area where I think Marvin Day could come back, as long as we can find a way for it to be self-sustaining and not be so much a you know, draw on the budget. So.
Well, and also having been on the subcommittee since Marvin Day 2, we had just kind of gotten it streamlined to a point where it almost just did itself. And I think one of the key things that we had finally come to is council originally wanted it to be a really big grand affair. It's probably a little over ambitious. And so we had it in, like, the very first one was in multiple locations. People didn't know where to go, so it wasn't well attended in any one particular place. It was too long during the day, so people with kids went home, you know, because they got tired, so people didn't stay for the concert, and the concert is expensive, and then not a lot of people were there for the fireworks. There was rain sometimes. And so what we learned over the years was that we were able to dial in, like, what was effective and what wasn't. So we shortened it so that it was within a time frame that a single family could attend. We figured out what was really popular, which was the kids, you know, bounce houses and blah, blah, blah. And what we were going to do this year was eliminate the fireworks and the band, which took the budget down. Jill can speak to what that does to the budget.
Like a $1.98.
Yeah, I mean, it was, those were not well attended enough to justify the expense, and people were not, if they're not, it was well attended earlier in the day. So it wasn't like they were coming for that. So we were going to eliminate that. And our next development is that we have been trying to pull off a vendor's market at Marvin Day since the very first one. And the first one didn't really work because, well, it wasn't a vendor's market then. It was like an art tour, and people were a little sketchy about going to people's private homes. And then we tried to do a vendor thing at Firethorn, but they didn't advertise it. And once again, too many locations. And so this year, that was going to be without the need for the space for the band and fireworks perimeter, safety perimeter taking up like 90% of the park. We were going to try to pull off the vendor fair. So we can obviously switch the vendor fair to kind of its own targeted thing. We've had a little bit of experience about it. We're trying to figure out how to, we were trying to figure out how to pull that off successfully, given kind of some false starts where it wasn't the focus. So we can definitely integrate that in the future, but I just wanted to sort of give you all kind of just a little bit of background of how Marvin Day has evolved over these last 5 years. Just so that for future consideration, it started out as an all-sponsored thing and paid for itself. There was a year where it was expensive because we didn't have the sponsors and we still had the fireworks and the bands. And then the budget really, really shrank. So it kind of starts to bring the ability to find sponsors and pay for the budget closer together because we're not asking for quite as much. So it may not be the climb that it was before, and it is. We were really getting it dialed in to be a really great event. So.
I think not to. I think one of the things to keep in mind too is that as we look at what events we're going to be doing this year, is that if Marvin Day is something that PR&G thinks is great value to the community. I think council is well informed by drawing on your expertise. I think this is a little bit backward in my mind as far as like how we came to making some of these decisions, because these issues came up during a working session, and we're trying to balance not even so much the budget, but really kind of the impact we had on a short staff. So I think in the future, it'd be great to have these things come out of PR, like the recommendations with the kind of a general guidance from council saying, hey, here's your budget, here's your budget in terms of hours. Tell us what you guys think is the best use of that. So that's what I'd like to see in the future. So I don't see this as like a forever thing, like all these things are going to be off the table forever, but maybe something for this year.
No,
yeah,
that's helpful. Thank you. Yeah, go, Bob.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I'm looking right now over at the survey, and, our decisions we're looking at on page 24, without a doubt, overwhelmingly, it's amazing that almost, you've got everybody wanting the farmer's market and the holiday market, and then holiday-related events. Even the concerts were ranked above Marvin Day. So that was a big draw, and it looks like Marvin Day only just a little over 20%. So the amount, I remember the first one was just absolutely just off the charts. Everybody was involved. It was hands on deck, and it has been less attended. My feeling is though that as we go forth to what Tom just said, it's not off the table. Let's just look and see as we're going on. In fact, we're probably going to be, Eford Park, my well-attended place that I go, is kind of an enigma, so to speak, where here we are now putting emphasis next to this, what would be a community-based area right next to the town hall, the village hall. So with the pond and everything else, I think it'll shift a little bit, and that could be somewhere where the farmer's market could be too. And the other thing that came up, which was really, to be efficient and effective here, there was that, as you all know from the recent news about the Nancy Guthrie situation and case, they were using this geo-tracking, if I've got that correct, if I'm saying that correct. And we were given a presentation of the Halloween event, that was actually real life. They were able to, this person was able to, this demonstration was able to show how many people attended the Halloween event. And what was amazing was that Halloween event, with as much we put into that, or not, however we put into it, that's not attended by just Marvin residents. It's pulling people from Waxhaw, Weddington, and Wesley Chapel, and people coming all over the place. So in the future, if we move towards this geo-tracking sort of device, it's really going to pinpoint who's attending what, and I think it'll be money well spent and efficient. That's all.
That's definitely something we've talked about in the Marvin Day committees and a couple of other things, because obviously you only want to, you're going for max attendance, but we've also talked about how widely we market some of these events, because the Halloween one is so well attended sometimes that it's actually a liability. And I know in a past joint council meeting, we had a discussion about, like, should we advertise it that wide?
Stop telling people about
Like,
this?
you know, because, and then also, do we want people from everywhere coming in, or do we really just want these things to be for, you know, for Marvin residents? And so, I'm not expecting an answer today, but these are questions that we have had, and maybe that demographic information and tracking information will be a useful guide for all of this kind of planning. And I do appreciate that, you know, you guys have, you know, came in and we don't have Tyler and we don't have Davey, and so we can't necessarily pull off easily without a huge strain on staff and other people, the events that we've had. So once we've pulled some of those from the calendar, you know, obviously we're going to be thoughtful about which ones we put back on, and planning them. But to that end, I think Marvin Day is probably the least understood one, just because, you know, except for, you know, I think Jill and I are the last people standing who are on the committees there. Just to give you, you know, background on how that went. And how the budget came down, so.
Well, if you guys, in one of your meetings, if you guys want to talk about things that you'd like to see continued and get that to us, then.
I think that makes a lot, I mean, we've always talked about just making sure we also have the diversity of events, and that's kind of what you mentioned, the car show. We're trying to reach not, obviously, it's wonderful to have small families, but we also have to think about all of our residents, and that we have a full suite. And I think as a PR&G, you know, setting up what are the guiding principles for us to make decisions and recommendations on events. You know, how do they cover the whole cycle of the year? How do they tie into other activities that, you know, other groups are doing, like a 5K? So I think it's important, and maybe that's a charge we can do, is help Jill. How do we put together the calendar of impact that we have in PR&G?
But I would also add to that, how easy is it to implement?
Yeah,
The car show is like, call a
and that's
guy
one of the
and the car show up.
so that's a criteria: cost, ease of use, reach, diversity of activities.
Because vendor markets, I've done them.
Yes.
for-
They're very time
very
consuming.
So we don't want to be doing them in multiple
We also
ways.
have considerations, those will probably have to happen at Eford because there's parking issues here. The vendors need to be able to drive up to their space
They have those trucks and trailers.
to create their space and then put their vehicle somewhere away.
I have been a co-chair for an event for 5 years that had up to 100 vendors in it. It was a full-time job for about 2 months.
Yeah.
So.
It is a big deal.
And it's a. and
That's one of
it's
the reasons
quite an event.
we had not really pulled it off
Yeah.
in previous Marvin days. But
I mean,
if that
it's
is the
fun,
sole
but it's-
focus,
yeah.
and it's obviously in demand, and I've been advocating for one for quite a while, I would love to see us, pursue that. But I would also consider that there be a staff member other than.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I was,
Everybody that we do consider replacing Tyler or Davey or some combination
If you're
thereof.
gonna do that sort of thing.
I just
Because
wanna
there are
make sure-
A lot of these things that are gonna require, like finding the 5K vendor, finding those vendors. There's a
Yeah.
lot of organizational stuff that is kind of beyond.
And I just want to make sure that we have realistic expectations, because getting a farmer's market or any kind of vendor market off the ground, not only is it a full-time job, but you have to have extremely low expectations. It takes years to get this to be fruitful. Stallings has attempted this. It did not go well. They had theirs right across from their beautiful park, right next to Town Hall. Poorly attended. At first, vendors were paying to attend. Then it got to the point where they were paying vendors to be there, because you also have to consider who you're competing with. The Ballantine Bowl now has a farmer's market every single Saturday from April till November with a ton of vendors and a ton of parking and a ton of businesses. So that's going to be a huge draw. Waxhaw's Farmers Market started off in a field with tents and tables, years and years and years of work and effort to grow it to where they finally had a good, consistent core of vendors in attendance to justify a dedicated space, and now it's there all the time. But that used to be where the tap house was, and it took years and years. So it's great that people are saying they want it, but in the past, we've had people tell us they want things, and then it's like, if you build it, they will come. Just be prepared. If you build it, they likely won't come. And we just have to set the expectation. You know what I mean? Because it takes a while, and it's worth it, but I would really want to hone in on exactly what farmers market means. A lot of different things to a lot of different people. So maybe it's, again, the survey tells you what, it doesn't tell you why, or more detail. So maybe there's a focus group. If there's a group that are super passionate about having this, maybe we ask them to volunteer in conjunction with PR&G to help get it off the ground, to find out what exactly, are we just wanting a farm stand? Or are we wanting,
Farmers market, like produce, or
right, are we, farm to table, I like organic, fresh food that I can buy local, support local farmers?
A little of both.
Yeah.
I'm going to appreciate that, Jill. I want to make sure maybe we should close the other topic first and then get to the farmer's market, but because there's definitely more discussion, so I want to put that. But just to wrap up on the events, I think that was helpful, at least for us to hear where the discussion came from. But I would also want to know, would you like PR&G, and I think it would be helpful for us to go back, make some recommendations on the calendar ahead, working with Jill to see what else is planned out there and come back and work with
And look at a
John.
whole calendar.
A whole calendar.
Yeah, the
so
whole year.
Right, and kind of help prioritize where we see
Yes.
the impact, like you said, the low, low effort, high impact, low cost, and come back to with
We'll
recommendations.
rate them.
The other thought, I just want to make a question, because, as PR&G, we would be wanting to field questions, because Easter's around the corner, and folks are going to ask about these events. Are we going to communicate? I mean, we're probably not going to communicate no Easter egg hunt, but how do we kind of set expectations in the community for things that are changing? If someone was planning on the Easter egg hunt and now we don't have one, or the 5K, do we want to just, by word of mouth, spread that, we are reassessing? How would you like us to be the voice of these decisions in the community?
Yeah, I don't know that we, like you said, need to publicize that we're not doing this or we're not doing that. I think part of it is just, us having to take our time to kind of reset, and, as we as council are looking through all the priorities, what ones we're going to continue with. I think what you're saying is exactly right. If you guys can really get, together, I'll present to council, or Christina, you're always welcome to come as well to represent the board, on an item where we kind of walk through these things. I don't think we need to publicize that we're not doing Marvin Day this year or something, but I think if we might have intent to do, something like the 5K maybe in the fall rather than the spring. And then potentially, I think one of the nice things about the 5K is that it wasn't part of Marvin Day, but it was kind of done in conjunction with Marvin Day. It was kind of advertised together, But I think if we do one maybe in the fall, and they know that we at least still have the intent to do these things, and with a new vendor, we may need to understand, how we interact a little bit differently with a new vendor too. So we'll just start to investigate those things.
I agree with you that we don't need to announce that we're not doing something that just causes more questions. But I do think it would be nice if we had a statement that all of us could be pretty clear on.
Sure,
We're
sure.
going to get the questions, you guys more than us probably, but so when the phone call comes, this is the statement. This is not dead forever, we're just reconsidering things. But we need
Gotcha.
I need to know what to say.
Okay.
Because I'll just keep talking.
That's fair, and we'll be meeting as a council tonight.
Most of us will.
And,
Christina, before you move on, I've heard you guys mention the car show a couple of times, so I do just want to let you know that we do have 2 car shows already on the calendar. One is going to be in the summer and one is in the fall, and that's the First Class Cars that has done car shows. We also added a new car show this September. For some reason, I have a suspicion that the mayor's going to like this one. But this is like a British car show. It's like classic cars, but not like muscle cars, more like old school, fun kind of classic cars. And it's the local chapter of like a British car club. So they're having one at the park in September, and it's going to be a cool event as well. So I'm happy to give you guys those dates that we have on hold so you can put that on the calendar. But those are 100% done by the car clubs. So we have very, very little, I have very little interaction with it other than Austin promotes it, but it does require our public works staff to be on site that, you know, the night before, getting the park ready, and then during and after the event. They do cleanup and safety and parking and all that, so.
You know, Joe, that's excellent, and I think that's something you and I spoke about maybe a couple months ago. Is there's a lot of events that take place, like 5Ks, there's groups in the park who do exercise. I think as we are having to maybe potentially, you know, scale back some of our offerings, we should definitely be promoting things that are in our village that are being done by third-party groups, right? That's a reflection of community involvement. It just doesn't have to be paid for or sponsored by.
The one thing that I was just thinking about as well, I don't think we need to publicize that we're not doing things. I think one thing that might be useful is that if we at least put an email out to all of our previous sponsors and so forth of Marvin Day, just to say something directly to them so they're not wondering if we're going to be coming. Yeah, that we're looking at, reworking Marvin Day, so we may not be doing it this year, but we look forward to your, participation in the future. I think that might be an important thing to do, just so that we continue to maintain those relationships from sponsors and vendors.
I'll work on getting a statement, and I'll send it to you all.
Thank you. That'll keep
By
it
the
on.
Council, I need to excuse myself as I have a prior commitment. So if you'd allow me to leave, and I'll see you tonight at 5 p.m.
Thank you.
Need a motion to excuse Bob Markleese at 10:18.
So moved.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Moving on, I think, so we've got some action items for PRG as far as our follow-up to
Now Tom is
recommendations. All right. Next item up, and since Jill's here, is on the item, a discussion of the Friendship Tree program. That's the next.
Yeah, so I'm under the impression this is your only joint meeting of the calendar year, so it sounds weird. Why are we talking about Friendship Tree in March? But this is our one opportunity to kind of discuss as a group. Not that we won't have additional conversations. We're going to have to as information comes out. But I just wanted to bring everybody up to speed on kind of some of the challenges that we've had with this last Friendship Tree. And I do think that depending on how the Union County Christmas Bureau responds to some of those challenges will potentially impact whether we can continue to participate. And some of those challenges that we ran into this past year were they had a deadline of November 15th for families to apply for aid for their children. The problem with that is that they wanted all of the gifts to be returned shortly after Thanksgiving. So that makes it extremely challenging on any group such as ours who has to scramble. Let's say we don't get our list of names and children until November 15th, then I have 2 weeks to not only find everyone to sponsor each of these children, but then to communicate that, get them to go out and do all the shopping when a lot of people are traveling or have family that week, and then coordinate them getting everything back within 2 weeks. It is a logistical nightmare. I have given feedback to the Union County Christmas Bureau that I feel like they need to make their deadline for the application process like 6 weeks earlier. It should be like October 1st, because not everybody who applies gets approved, and they have to vet and they have to provide documentation. It's not like November 15th, your kid's on a list the next day. There's a process there. So they understand the challenges. They're trying to sort of revamp their program, but they don't always make the decisions. So that being said, it was also really challenging to get children adopted every year. Like, I was personally having to use my personal Facebook account to just blast it all over Union County and essentially beg for people to take these kids off our hands. And we did get them all covered, which was fantastic. But it stresses me out, y'all. I'm not gonna lie. My bleeding heart can't handle knowing that there's gonna be potentially kids not taken, and I'm like ready to personally sponsor anyone who's left because that's how bad I feel about it. So, those are some logistical issues. The other issue we have is a physical space issue and a transportation issue. So, if you guys have been here during Friendship Tree, you've seen the gifts are, we used to use the community room, but we haven't in the last year or two because it is rented out consistently throughout the holiday season. So now we're kind of lining the hallways. We had to put a sign on a door saying no entry or exit because you'll smack into some bikes if you try to come through here. And Christina had some concerns that it could have been a fire marshal violation if they were to pop in and see how we had all of the gifts. So storage is definitely an issue. As you know, we don't really have a lot here, and it is a lot of bulky items. And then the ex-mayor used to pull his personal trailer up here every year, and I have not asked or confirmed that he is available to continue doing that, but that's what we used to transport all of the gifts. I was able to confirm with ex-mayor pro tem that the Marvin chapter of the Young Men's Service League is still willing to package and bundle up all of the gifts, which it takes them 2 days to do that, and we're super grateful for their help. They're still willing to do that for us, but it's just a matter of, as we get closer, I really can't tell you with 100% confidence that I can recommend participation as of right this minute. It does depend on storage, it does depend on logistics, and it does depend on Union County Christmas Bureau making some changes.
Okay, so do you have a deadline in your head as to when you will have all the information you need to make that decision? Because I figured the Christmas Bureau is the bigger variable there. The others would probably.
Yeah, they also weren't very pleasant to work with this past season, which I found frustrating.
They were probably stressed too.
Yeah,
Jill,
yeah.
I wonder if there's a way, instead of doing that, if there's a way that maybe we could just donate money and just do it directly through, like maybe we promote something on an email or our website or something that, instead of adopting a child and going out and buying gifts, if people have the means and just want to donate money, and we help them that way instead of taking up so much space here, since that seems to be a concern.
Or could we switch our focus to the Toys for Tots, which we also run simultaneously?
Yeah, I'd like to say my piece on this, and let everybody know this was my idea. So I have a vested interest in it a little bit. Christina, the first year, Park Rec and Greenway did it. There was no tower, and so we did it, and it was a lot of work.
That was a lot. You guys.
But it was worthwhile work. There are approximately 2,200 families in Union County that are destitute. And if we don't get gifts for the children, there will be no gifts for the children. We're a very lucky community. We're a wealthy community, we're a diverse community, and we're very much unlike a lot of Union County. If you get outside of western Union County, it gets it gets to be a low income pretty quickly. And when I came up with this idea, I thought it would be a great way to engage our community and help the balance of Union County. Tower comes on board, Marvin takes over the program. And working with the Christmas Bureau that I didn't even know existed until we got involved in it, they're volunteers, and they have turnover. And they also have a difficulty finding locations to store all these things. So there's logistical issues with it. And then to Jill's point, we lost the room back here. Christine and I spent hours and hours and hours back there one year, wrapping gifts and getting the process in place. And
Without chocolate.
yeah, and so I recognize everything Jill said. I think it's worthwhile. Weddington Methodist Church is involved in it, and they do 450 families. And if the council and Park Rec find this program to be of value, I'd like to go to Weddington Church and say, hey, we'd like to participate. But if you're collecting over at the church and you're promoting, and we can do drop-offs over there, and you can take it over to the Christmas Bureau, then we don't have to have a trailer. We don't have to use the room here. What we have to have is a tree with some names. Now, the other thing that everybody needs to know about the names, you can get as few or as many names initially as you want. What they do request is if you ask for 50 names, that you get gifts for 50 people, because nobody else is going to take that over. So, you can mitigate the downside on that by just initially taking fewer names. And then, and excuse me, if we, let's say it's 20. You take the 20, you get gifts for 20. If you need more, hopefully you can get more. We didn't run into the issue Jill ran into, where, the time constraints you had is totally unreasonable, frankly. And that has to be worked out through the Christmas Bureau, and certainly I hope they do. But like I said, if the committee and PRG feel it's worth pursuing, and if we can take a burden of labor off of everybody through the church, is it something you'd like to see us continue? I would love to continue it. And I don't know if Weddington Methodist will do it or not. I think they will. But that'll take a huge burden off you, staff, everybody.
I think that is an excellent idea, and wish we had thought of it sooner, actually.
Would they have to wrap it, though? I mean, would that
I
be
think we're
asking?
just
Well, the people
just
still
drop it off
wrap
like
their
a-
gifts
Okay,
and
so
take
they're
it to
just
the
a
church.
receipt. They're just a
Yeah,
receipt.
they'll
That's
do the drop-off at the church, and the church takes it over.
Okay. But one of the things that you and I, or maybe the group of us talked about last year, when it was getting down to go time and you didn't have anybody signed up, could we consider like a pre-registration kind of thing?
I did that this past year.
But earlier, where we're like, you're gonna promise to buy something for somebody kind of thing, yeah. And I know, because I was like, I'll do two, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And that at least helped you feel like, okay, I only have 10 to fill, and it helps you know how many tags you can get and all that kind of stuff. That's all, assuming we move forward. Something to help ameliorate that
So
situation.
I feel like there's been a lot of word coming from residents that there seems to be this charge for residents wanting to help residents. And whether that's wanting to help Marvin residents or Union County residents, I'm not really sure. Hopefully it's all of the above. But there are some potential opportunities for us to continue to support the Christmas Bureau and even families in need in Union County, just kind of shifting gears a little bit in different ways. So we could get creative. For instance, the Christmas Bureau is always publishing a list of needs that they have every Christmas season. One of their biggest needs is nobody seems to want to adopt a teenager for Christmas. Everybody wants the cute, I want to go buy like Bob the Builder and cute little outfits, and I want to buy a bicycle. They don't want to buy gift cards to Chick-fil-A, and they don't want to buy, a cell phone or whatever. It's just not, it just doesn't hit. So there's a constant request and need for gifts for teenagers, for instance. There's a constant need for extra toys, extra clothes, extra socks, shoes, underwear, pajamas, coats, gloves, hats, you name it. And they take it all because they do, unfortunately, sometimes have children that are not adopted, or maybe they have to last minute step in. And so they do try to build quite a little inventory of things that they can throw together to make sure a kid's needs are met. So as we massage and tweak this, and as we get some information back from the county, I'm not suggesting that we do nothing, but I'm suggesting that it might take a different form. One of the suggestions was, what if we focused on Toys for Tots and setting a goal to fill up, 5 to 10 boxes this holiday season. Toys for Tots is a huge part of the Union County Christmas Bureau's plan as well. And we work with the Marines every year on that. So that's an option where we know children are getting helped. But, Councilman Nunnenkamp and I have talked about how you sort of lose that personal component of like choosing a child and knowing their name and their age and what they love, and even praying for them and just loving on them. It takes that personal bit away, but you're still helping, and that's the ultimate end goal. So I'm just putting this on your radar. I don't know my deadline personally. I want to reach out to the staff member at Union County Christmas Bureau and kind of ask her, like, hey, friend, how's that going? I'll probably know more by summertime and be prepared by fall to kind of give a recommendation on. Yeah, that's my
And
goal.
if Bob can do his part with Weddington to see how they feel about a group effort, then we would have all the data and then.
And one idea to think about is maybe we partner with a Marvin church. I mean, there's been a lot of cooperation with them.
Weddington is apparently really good at this.
Well, I know, but I'm talking from a storage place. If we just need a place to store gifts, maybe there's like one of the Marvin churches, whether it's Banks or Marvin AME Zion, they've got a school there. Maybe they have some storage space for us. We also have talked about potentially renting a trailer. I can't speak for ex-Mayor Polino if he's still going to be willing to offer his trailer, but there was a conversation about maybe renting one for a few weeks, and it would have to sit in our parking lot here, but maybe that's where we could kind of store the gifts so that we're not creating fire hazards or fire marshal issues here. So there are options that we can discuss as we get closer, but plan on this being probably on one of your agendas in the fall, and then also on yours as well, so.
How many households participate in the last few years, would you say, in Marvin? I mean, I know we took tags, but do you know how many households are represented in that?
I can tell you this past season, we had 22 households. We had 40 children, and we had 22 households take the 40 children.
So we have a lot more opportunity to.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's just like,
Honestly,
that's
I'll
not
go
it.
on record saying it's embarrassing.
That's what I was gonna say, I can't believe it's 20.
Well,
And she had to shake the trees to get that.
Well, the first year we had almost 60.
Well, 60 tags, but I don't know how many households.
Well, with over 40 then.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, we had a pretty good, then, there were, daughters and sons in the same family, and so you had that, and, but like I said, if we can take the burden off her and see if Weddington Church is even interested, and if they are, that would,
Even if we just do it this year that way.
yeah, make it. So
Well-
let me just, if everybody thinks it's worth doing, I'll just pursue it.
I mean, I'm kind of looking around and I'm not seeing anybody who seems like they're opposed. I mean, everybody's in favor of this.
Sure.
We were all very impressed when, you brought this, and initiated this. So I would defer, I mean, yeah, I think we all would like to see this go forward for all of the reasons stated. And I would defer to Jill, who ends up doing a lot of the heavy lifting, is that if we can get it to a place where it's manageable for her and we're getting it done, go, let's do it.
Yeah, and I mean, we always have at least one staff member, at least 2 PRG, at least 2 council that participate in the program and adopt kids every year. So right off the bat, I know I've got 5 people I can count on. That being said, no pressure, friends, but we have, a bigger planning board and a big PRG board and a big council. So I would love it, 100% participation from board members, wink, wink. But that would be, 20 right there. So no pressure. But yeah, I'll bring this back to you guys in the fall. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
And Austin, we are on track still, within a few minutes, too.
Oh, yeah, barely.
And now it's your turn, so you can keep us on the survey results, and I think this is another topic.
You can speak fast.
Yeah, everybody's had a copy of them, but I really wanted to hear the interpretation of.
I honestly don't have much to say. There was not many surprises in the survey. It's pretty consistent. Generally, people respondents, I won't say residents because it's respondents. Respondents are more skeptical of expansion of amenities, expansion of programs right now, but there are certain things that did cross, a 50% threshold of support. I don't know if there was anyone specifically wanted to talk about today, but we do plan to start, advertising some of the survey results here and there when they align with something that we're doing. So, like the preservation of our tree canopy and land conservation was a big issue that everyone supported. So we, tie that into our receipt of our Tree City USA. We do have a set of planned communications so far, just some concepts, focusing on why people live in Marvin. Number one reason being the quality of the schools, the large lots, low taxes. Everyone likes the feeling of a small town, those sorts of things. We did a communication with the storm preparation and response because road maintenance was a top priority in the survey as well. We could promote the welcome monuments from our wayfinding project. That was over 60%, for example. Other than that, I mean, it's really whatever else the council, PRG board would like to see promoted, what projects you want to talk about for the future based on the survey results. So is there anything anyone specifically wants to cover?
I have a question that goes back to the math. I assume that this is definitely statistically significant, right? I mean,
We had very good
Very
participation,
good.
yes.
Yeah, so have you said anything out into the world about that? Because some people don't understand that you can have a pretty small number and it's it's statistically significant.
We did have
And we had
Central.
a good number.
Yeah, we had Central Liner present the results at the council retreat, and they definitely noted this was a good sample.
Right.
Obviously,
Does the public know that?
I mean, most people, even myself, I don't consider myself to be an expert on statistics, but we have done some posts on the survey results and the level of participation that we had. We're going to do more in the future, but we're going to space them out more based on projects going forward.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. Just to remind people that they said this and that and the other thing. Yes. Yes.
And we'll make it look pretty.
Well, and I think would like to hear council, you obviously discussed this in the retreat, how that feedback was. I think my initial impression was, as you said, good response rate was, and from the PR&G perspective, that over 50% of folks are using our parks, our greenways, which was encouraging too, as the sample size there. I think the other takeaway we talked about it was the prioritization of the activities and events, so that was something that you've already covered. Go ahead, Bob.
Just a thought in terms of, we constantly talk about communication and how to improve it, because I think in large part, as we all recognize, there's misinformation and incomplete information. And I think that, I keep going back to the HOA presidents' meetings and the opportunity for us to share and communicate with them. This is something I think worthy of communicating to the HOA presidents. And hopefully we're going to schedule an upcoming meeting in May. And the primary reason for that is to have Hunter Nestor present and talk about the trees, tree canopy, the protection of it, because there were concerns about what took place at Heritage. And it gives him an opportunity to get before the HOA presidents and better explain that. And as part of that, we could do the community survey too. And I think that'd be very interesting for them. John, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I think, as you mentioned, the HOA presidents group, as we continue to work to get more participation even in that as well. But yeah, disseminating a lot of our information. What we find, and I think the survey brought this out as well, is that the people on that survey, I think 50% of them almost were subscribed to our village newsletter.
I was actually going to jump into that.
It's not surprising if you think about it, right? People who are engaged or
people
And they're the ones that are answering the survey too, but I would have thought that number would be less, that they may be getting it from other social media and things, but to have 50% of those respondents, I think the HOA presidents can help us in getting that word and information out. I think once you're plugged into that, I think Austin does a good job in presenting, good-looking information, not spamming or overwhelming people, but just at least, keeping them aware of what's going on in the community and trying to get people plugged into those, whether it's social media or our email blasts. I think that's an important component of what we can continue to do. I think also, it's funny because some of the survey results are exactly what I expected, and other things, kind of surprised me a little bit, I think there was one of the things that helped our responses is regarding the elections, there was at least a lot of discussion and a lot of people talking about the things that are, going on in Marvin. So I think as we continue to try to impact the community in positive ways, I think we can get those survey numbers even up more. I think it'll be interesting whenever we next do a survey, because I heard a lot of, concern about what questions are asked or how questions are asked. And we all know, I mean, going through the PR&G board and trying to figure out the questions and also doing it on council, sometimes there's just no good way to ask a question. You just have to and you can't account for everything in all those things, but I think we continue to have followed the right type of methodology to get the results. I think limiting it to, one per household was an important thing where we used the key codes and things like that, so.
I thought that was a very good idea.
Yeah, because you don't want people just spamming answers and stuff like that.
Since that's possible. I have a question for him about one of the questions, but.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Really?
Really,
Can I ask you a question though, just about, all of the questions, except for two, had less than 10% of people just not gonna answer it. And one of them, more than 50% of the people wouldn't answer it, and it has to do with us. And it's about the Parks and Greenways Master Plan, 17, and about the number of proposed and completed trails, which, I mean, kind of important. But more than 50% of the people who went through all of this didn't even answer that question. You got ideas about why?
so one thing that we talked about with our vendor, and I want to go into communications in a second because there's a lot of nuances there. But as far as, we had a discussion with the vendor at the time about how many questions do we want to make mandatory? Because the issue is the longer the survey is, the more mandatory questions they are, people stop caring, they stop answering, you don't get a submitted response. So the questions that we made mandatory were the ones saying yes or no. There were some questions that had logic tied to them, yes or no, where if you said no, it skipped the next question because you wouldn't be able to answer it anyway. So those were more the questions that we had made mandatory. So for any particular question that had a lower response rate, it may simply have been that people didn't really know what to say or how to say it, or if they felt qualified to provide an answer.
Was it possibly, maybe it was connected to question 16 then, because about that many said they'd never heard of the master plan. So maybe it was tied together.
That might have been a
But
logic
that
question.
really
I'd have to
stood
pull
out to
it.
me that they just like, nope, not gonna answer that one. That didn't make
That was
sense.
probably a logic question. I'd have to pull the actual one.
Well, then it
But
also takes I'm sorry, that answer then is less valid because you've only got, you're down to
It's
like.
not, that's not true. That's not true. Nothing is less valid because there's less response. That is still a good sample there.
Truth is, 232 people is still a good sample in statistics world.
And like I said, this was a very good response rate for what we have. I wanted to touch on communications though, because this is where I really think the strength of our communications comes through with the village. 3/4 of survey respondents are subscribed to our emails. Most towns would love to have an email list this active, this large. So that is something that we're blessed with and is a bit uniquely Marvin. 87% of people thought we send just enough emails, so I am not driving anyone crazy. That's good to know, because I can. A lot of the information that people wanted to see added to our newsletter is actually already there or is in different issues. So we're doing very good. We still have growth potential with social media. The majority of respondents don't actually follow us on social media. So that is an area that we need to grow in.
But there's a lot of people who are just, not doing social media at all. They're just like,
So it reminds me whenever I see that, I'm like, okay, just because I post something on Instagram or Facebook isn't enough. We do need to put more stuff in emails, and that's why we try, to make our newsletters a little, flashy. We put more information in there, because I don't want to send every social media post out to everyone in an email because our list will start shrinking rapidly if I do that. But as far as where people receive their information from, 62% read our newsletter who responded. Another 40% or so, 38.5%, check our website. Social media accounts, we're good, and people primarily come to us first for their information about what's going on here. HOAs, I think, to both Bob and John's point, is a great area of growth. When we were promoting the survey, we had multiple neighborhoods that were performing very well: Weddington Chase, Marvin Creek, Firethorn. The larger neighborhoods are having a lot of responses, but the smaller ones of 10, 20, 30 homes or less, they were struggling. So I was reaching out to any neighborhood that had less than 20 responses every week, and I would just kind of tailor that down, keep going just to get a few more responses. And those HOA presidents, the HOA contacts, some of the management companies, they were instrumental in getting those response rates up.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad you got some cooperation from that.
And I appreciated you reminded me to remind them kind of thing, yeah.
I was angry texting you.
That's okay.
I subscribe now to the email list. I think it's awesome, and you do a great job. I think a way to maybe improve on the social media is it's so much faster to get. I don't do social media. I'm like one of those people. Like I have accounts, but like you'll rarely ever see me post anything. I just lurk, I guess. But it's so much faster to get information through social media than it is. So like, it's a snowstorm. Should I put my garbage out? I'm opening up the email. I'm seeing if the town sent an email. It'd be so much faster to go on Instagram, hit the town, and see, like, garbage not being picked up tomorrow, whatever, they're delayed. I think people use it that way.
And we do that whenever, if we have a storm response, we're generally sending out the emails and doing social media about the same time, usually one after the other. And then we'll usually, anything urgent, anything that was related to the delay of services, we'll do everywhere, post on our website too. And especially if it's storm related, we'll end up probably doing, most cases we do a daily update on how operations have been affected, excuse me.
That's awesome. I have to ask, does it mention that on the bottom of the email? And I asked because I subscribed to the email now because I had mentioned something about not knowing it, and you were like, actually, that's in our email. And I was like, what, we have an email? That's great, I'll subscribe. So now that I know the information's on social media too, I'll subscribe to social media. So
And we
I know
do
that.
have social media links at the bottom of the newsletter. They're small, but they're there. We try to cross-promote, but we need to do more to promote our social media, honestly, because there's more growth potential there than there is for our email list. It grows, but it grows at a very slow pace.
I can add too that I get to speak to every brand-new resident who moves into Marvin because they have to come to me to get their trash service. So I will typically send them an email letting them know about the resident newsletter, asking them to sign up, and I also include all of the social media links and tell them to follow all of our town social channels. So I'm trying to grab the new people who are moving in here.
I know we've talked about that in the past, but is that a formal thing that you've done, Jill? Or, was that in response to us having requested it before? Because I know we've spoke about like a new neighbor welcome package or something like that.
No one asked me to do it. I just was already messaging them, kind of explaining why I was going to be billing them for solid waste. And because my department receives, I manage Mary, and she receives all incoming inquiries from residents, and she gets all the phone calls. It just, to me, I think I can cut down on the amount of calls and make her more efficient if people are getting information from our website, our newsletter, and social. So I just started telling people to sign up, hoping that she'd be more efficient, actually.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Well, and because I think the newsletter is great, and I know
yeah.
we do so much on social. I wanted to also just help Austin out so that his communication isn't going wasted.
Thank you.
I have to run, but I just want to say it was great meeting all of you guys and reiterate what Councilman Eck had said earlier about how we had come upon some of these decisions in a work session, and I look forward in the future and hope to get your input on these things, because that would have been so valuable before that conversation, to have your input and your experience kind of inform these decisions that we have to make.
Well,
So
fortunately, there's still time going forward. so,
Yes,
yeah.
indeed. And I look forward to hearing from that, guys, and hearing and working with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Do I need to make a motion?
No.
If you excuse Councilmember El Raza, you will lose quorum, and we would have to stop. So
Okay.
I would recommend leaving unexcused. Your vote will count as a yes.
Great.
Let's vote.
This is why I'm here.
Hey, Austin, do we lose quorum anyway? Oh, never mind.
You wouldn't, just because of when someone leaves unexcused, they're voted. If they leave unexcused, they're counted as present, voting yes on motions going forward. It's just remote participants make everything more complicated because you guys don't count towards quorum.
Thanks, Tom.
I was gonna say, I don't count for much anyway, so not much loss there.
I'm energetic this morning. I feel like I got a pop quiz.
All right. Austin, anything else on the survey then?
I'm good if you guys
Thank you for
are.
highlighting that and the time that folks spent in reviewing it too, so, okay. Next up is the discussion on the Bermuda to Fescue conversion.
Oh
And
my
Jen's going to
God.
give us an update. I know that's been something we've reviewed, maybe, I don't know if everyone on the council is aware of what that was.
Honestly, it's kind of funny that this came to me because I don't even know what this conversation is specifically about, so I'm probably going to have to refer back to Christina. But I was contacted a while ago about the event lawn on this project. Should we do Bermuda or should we do fescue? And conversation with Christina Culp, between us being the primary resident plant heads, we recommended fescue. The reasons for that is that Bermuda is wildly invasive and we would love to see less of it everywhere. Fescue, I mean, any lawn is the nutritional equivalent of a Twinkie when it comes to the environment. No lawn is.
Deadscape.
Yeah, I was just saying,
It's a deadscape.
it's your least, it just sits right above concrete, you know, as far as, you know, because it has runoff and it requires chemicals and mowing and blah, blah, blah. So, but you also have to use turf grass when you want something that you can sustain foot traffic, open lines of sight and stuff like that, obviously like for an event lawn. So once, you know, committed to turf grass, between the two of us, our recommendation was fescue. Even though it does require more water and fertilizer than a Bermuda lawn, it looks nice and feels nice underfoot more time of the year, whereas like the Bermuda right now, for example, is just all brown thatch.
And you don't spend your days pulling it out of all of the planting beds.
Yeah, everywhere, because it will run 6 or 8 feet under concrete and come up in other places. It'll go up posts and things like that. So that was our recommendation for the sod in the event lawn. Somehow in the course of those conversations, it seems that it ballooned into, let's remove all the Bermuda from the entire property here. And I'm not quite sure how it ballooned into that, or if that's actually what we're discussing, and maybe it was something, and I'm not like the opinion on, like, my opinion is not definitive, but it may have been something that I said that started that. So I'll be clear that when I say I'd love to see the Bermuda gone, originally what I was looking for was to have, when I originally submitted the landscaping plan for the planting beds immediately around the base of this building, I had, that plan did not include any of the grass that was currently in the beds, because mixing that Bermuda grass and plants in a contained space, it was just a nightmare. It's just a nightmare for maintenance to have to mow that little patch and fertilize and thatch that little patch and water that little patch and then try to keep that little patch from turning into the whole planting bed. So,
It's so true.
yeah, I know. So I was in favor for the last several years of remove the Bermuda, but I was really referring to the planting beds so that we could finish out the planting scheme, which over the last 3 years still is not completely finished due to a variety of circumstances. But in any event, that is remove the Bermuda and then prefer fescue for the event lawn. And the other reason to prefer the fescue for the event lawn is acknowledging that currently Bermuda and, you know, clover and weeds are the predominant ground cover beyond the event lawn. So that if you don't have any distinction between the event lawn surface and the rest of the area, like, you lose the aesthetics of the design that we had designed. So you need to have some boundary or some change in material. So my proposal is, yes, every time we have a project that disturbs soil, for example, the War Memorial, let's just not put Bermuda back in. However, I am not in favor of just a project in and of itself, wholesale. And I feel like somewhere it kind of got proposed that that's what I was advocating for. It is not that like a wholesale scorched earth, let's remove all the Bermuda at once and replace it with something. That's an enormous landscaping task because there's a lot of Roundup involved in that. And then you have to replace it with something. I think that as we have projects like the Pondscape, the War Memorial, and maybe over time expand our landscaping away from those areas, that the Bermuda gets removed each time and replaced not with more turf grass, but with other ground covers that do not need to sustain foot traffic but still maintain that visual openness that a lawn provides. For example, low-growing junipers, other ground covers that are not invasive, in areas where those things make sense, or even non-turf grasses that are low and just create sort of a uniform meadow effect.
Yeah, because there's some that are.
Yeah, like lower than knee high, just kind of like, a field of like pink muley grass, but the short stuff. And then those areas, once again, preserve that open resting, planted en masse, gives you that aesthetic appeal of an open area, maintains the visibility by having low plants rather than, and it can be interspersed with bigger plants, of course, but then it reduces the mowing and the watering, because a lot of those plants are much more drought tolerant, and easier to maintain if we select varieties appropriately. So
they're also more useful for the environment.
yeah, I mean, I was just, like I said, the lawn does not have, as much benefit to the environment, but it does serve a purpose, and it's going to serve that purpose. So to the extent that there is still a discussion about Bermuda versus fescue, those are my suggestions. I'm not the end
So
decider.
what if we're going to have to dig up the sod when we put that water, the pond down, maybe we can take that sod and move it over to replace?
We could pick another place where it would make sense, maybe
Yeah.
right around this memorial
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I wouldn't waste it.
Yeah.
And once again, it's still turf grass,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, anywhere, I guess my thing is, I wouldn't make replacing the Bermuda project in and of itself, but every time we have a project, let's move away from it.
Yeah.
And for sure, if we're gonna cut up a bunch of sod that's
Let's
already
move it.
here,
Yeah.
just relay it somewhere useful.
So,
That's a great idea.
so do you guys, because my question is having Bermuda and having fescue, is the Bermuda going to try to overtake the fescue?
It's gonna try to overtake the building.
Period. Okay, so,
But there are chemicals for that.
Well, so there's also a maintenance tactic for that, is when the fescue lawn gets mowed, maintenance needs to periodically clean the edge.
They've got to
And-
clean the blades.
Yeah, well, they got to clean the blades because the seeds will spread. But
Okay.
if you, there's a, pretty much even a weed whacker tilted on its side will do it, but there are other tools I'm sure that they have, like the ones with the blades or whatever. You just need to cut the infiltrating Bermuda roots.
should we bag them?
Ideally, but you have Bermuda on one side, as long as the waste is mostly going
Okay.
back on it, it's really just reseeding itself. So yes, that was the vendor's concern with fescue in the event lawn, is you've got all this Bermuda everywhere else, you're eventually gonna lose your fescue. I don't think that's as much of a problem, because one of the things that's happening on this event lawn is that those oaks are gonna shade it almost all day.
That's the only thing.
That's the only thing Bermuda doesn't like, and
Oh, good.
fescue
Okay.
prefers, or will work better in, is that shade, which was another reason that we opted for the fescue, is that it's gonna look much prettier year-round, and the Bermuda will look sparse and
And it
scraggly.
needs water, which is good, because we have water.
Yeah, we
so.
have lots of water. I mean, we're
Yes.
talking about all this stuff for drainage, and
Yes,
if we do
so
end up
that's
in a
good.
dry spell, we're talking about all these ways of irrigating, and we have a well right under those oaks. So even in a pinch without an irrigation system, we could put the flip-flops and the rotators out and get it through. But I don't see watering fescue to be a particular problem. As long as we're responsible about fertilizing, so it's not contaminating runoff, I think that's fine, because Bermuda requires a little bit of that too. And if we slowly replace the Bermuda around that event lawn, it will become less and less of an infiltrator.
I hate to even bring this up, but do you want, though, to get rid of the Bermuda up
I
here?
still would love to.
Because they're pretty small spots.
They are
right
still
here.
pretty small spots, and I would defer to Matt on whether it's really that much of a pain to maintain them, because like right at the moment, I don't think we have a budget or a plan for even the small number of plants that would need to go in there. So if
They're
it's
be-
not the
they're beds
grass,
in
then
grass,
we
right.
need.
Is that a bed area, or is that an area?
She's
That's
talking
right,
about
perfect.
these, that we have the patch of grass here under the tree out front, and another one right here in front. I think the ones in back have already been removed. Davey removed them for me before he left. So I think the ones in back are gone, so I think it's just these two front ones. And unless we're ready to plant new things, maybe it kind of just looks like bare mulch for a while, so maybe it.
Because mulch would be fine.
Well, mulch will be fine too, so if everybody's okay looking at
Yeah.
mulch, but
We're not going to proliferate the Bermuda, we're going to replace it where we can, and then that's, I think
yeah,
that's
I
the
mean,
right-
if
So
there's
hang
a
on, before-
particular project in and of itself to remove, I would remove these patches up here and
I
just
want to
eliminate
make
that.
sure before we're setting a kind of a instruction to start piecemealing like Bermuda and fescue, I want to make sure the guys are able to meet the demands, because if that requires the guys going and like rinsing down their equipment after every time they mow, I don't think that's practical.
That would be your best practice, but it's not
Mow the
necessary
fescue
because
first.
the Bermuda's gonna blow. I mean, the Bermuda being immediately adjacent, stuff is potentially gonna go in, but with that shade there, it's less likely to take.
So are we, I guess, just so I'm clear, are we outlining the expectation for every time there's a project that involves some level of grass disruption to replace it and reseed it with fescue at that point, or to keep it the way?
Just not put more Bermuda back. Because depending on what the project is, wherever we have a soil disturbance, it might be better to put another plant other than a turf grass.
Okay, so I just need some direction from council and PRG how you guys want to transfer that to me as we're disturbing anything on the Village Hall site, because they're,
So like a recommendation from us that anytime soil is disturbed, we do X, Y, or Z?
yes,
Okay.
yep,
Do you want me to wordsmith the motion?
sure.
That's sort of what you're good at, man.
Okay. But we probably need to establish some type level of thresholds as well, because I'm not really clear what
I don't,
that means.
so we can vote, because Fred would be a yes.
Fred would be a yes.
Okay.
What are we gonna vote?
On the fescue versus Bermuda.
Separate motions, one for council, one for PRG.
But, I mean, so those were my recommendations, Bob. I mean, anybody else, I mean, I don't know how many of us care that much about grass, but, or what species.
Well, my only comment is that I think the fescue is a great choice because it's a shade issue. Bermuda just won't grow. So we'll end up with bare dirt over there if you put Bermuda in over there. But to Angel's point, the thing about Bermuda, and Lord knows I know a little bit about it, it's so invasive. And the fact is, we reseed our yard every year with fescue. And it looks good in the spring. And as soon as the Bermuda wants to take over,
You get patches.
we go, our whole yard is becoming Bermuda. And the reason for that are the rhizomes. You say, well, we're going to control the Bermuda. Well, a lot of the growth of Bermuda is underground.
Well, that's why I say you need to edge it with a cutting
Yeah,
tool.
and those rhizomes, they travel and they go up into the fescue, and before long, you've got a combination, and a couple years later, you got Bermuda and no fescue. So my only thought as we talk about this is, does it make sense for PRG to come to council and say, hey, we got a multi-year plan, not do it all at one time?
Okay.
But gradually come and remove the Bermuda, because I keep going back to Angel's point. We're gonna be fighting this stuff forever. And if we do it gradually, I think we can control it and get to where we wanna get.
So you're talking about
And
a
if you wanna put
structured
in-
plan over time as opposed to just waiting for other projects to result?
Correct.
Yeah.
And just come to us and tell us what's involved and what plants or grass but do it over a period of time and not, make it so
Yeah, if council's
difficult.
willing to invest if council's willing to invest the manpower from Public Works and the budget, absolutely.
But also, depending on what the plan would be, you could say, okay, we're gonna do this first part, but we're not gonna do that other part for a while.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think
Exactly.
like to
It doesn't
protect
have
the
to be-
lawn,
Exactly.
the lawn will be protected on one side by the walking trail, for example, the event lawn, and the concrete trail right down here, right? So that creates a border where, no more Bermuda's gonna get in. Then you've got the rain garden on this other side, protects it. So the only place where it's exposed to Bermuda is between the event lawn and the street. That's where we were proposing that we plant the knee-high grasses and just create a meadow.
Well, if y'all could come with a proposal
And
to
so
council.
that could be the first effort in that, is then we don't ever have to worry about, except for windblown seed, we don't have to worry about Bermuda infiltrating that lawn, because now it is bordered by non-invasive stuff all the way around.
Right.
So if we are going to engage in a specific project to change that out, that would be my first proposal.
So why don't we volunteer to do that plan?
Okay.
You and me.
You bet.
But for the
So,
immediate decision,
no-
I guess we have as far as the plan for the current park, new things are all going to be fescue. There's no.
Yes.
Do you guys need to
New turf
give
grass.
us instruction? Do you guys need to direct us at this time? Or are you
I don't
guys
think
just
so.
going to work on a
Sounds like
plan?
we're going to
We're gonna
come
make a
up with a plan, and then we'll submit it in the,
We're going to call it the grass plan.
I was about to say, I'm not a plant expert here, so I thought I was listening to Portuguese, so I don't really, you'll have to give us direction once you guys formulate a plan.
Yeah, it won't be terribly
I think it'll be a great educational opportunity too, because Bob, as you said, many of us have the same issue with our lawns and neighboring. So I think as we do this plan, I think it would also be a good communication for people in the community to see how we're attacking it and how they can do it in their own.
Council, do you all agree by consensus to this?
Yeah.
Anyone have any
Yeah.
issues?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you, Jen.
absolutely.
All right.
On time.
So
Whenever I can bore
All right,
people
so-
about
I
grass is
know.
a good day.
All right, so let's move on to the Houston Ross task force that we have. We met with the Marvin Historical Society, who has relationships with the descendants, with the descendants of the original founders of Marvin, and asked them to help us come up with some ideas, which they're going to bring to PRG, with regard to things that we could do to explain the history of Houston Ross. You know, where did the name come from? Who were these people? Why are they special to Marvin, et cetera? So we asked the Marvin Historical Society to kind of spearhead that with the descendants, to come to us with some ideas for things that we can do. We had a meeting at the AME Zion Church. Christina was there, and the mayor was there, and I was there. And it was a room full, there's probably 40 or 50 people. These are the most lovely, exciting people. They are so excited about this project, and they're direct descendants from Mittie Bell Ross and, the Houston folks. And so we just had a brainstorming session and also got to know some of them, and got some ideas, found out a little bit more about Mittie Bell Ross and how she loved roses. I don't know if roses, or if we're going to have any roses. Plant ladies can tell me.
I can tell you, right, you'll need somebody to take care of them.
Okay.
They are highly, high maintenance, high chemical use.
Okay.
There are a couple that we could put in there, iceberg and a couple of the hedgerows.
Okay.
And this is one of the reasons when Mittie Bell was growing them, the climate was different.
Yeah, okay.
Seriously, I mean, just even in the last 20 years, it is
Okay.
just so not rose friendly now.
Well,
Anyway,
they came up with, they were telling us that she loved her roses, so if there are some low-maintenance roses, we might consider putting them somewhere. Also, she had plum trees and peach trees, and again, I don't know that that makes sense in our,
really hard to.
of course, yes, okay, well,
I mean, just fruit trees just require a lot of chemicals and maintenance. and
okay,
time.
well,
Yeah, that's-
and that may not be a good fit,
There are
but,
native versions that,
well, I defer to you. I am not a plant expert, so I'm just sharing information. And also, there was a cedar post from, I think, the original house that they still have on the property there. And we were talking about maybe putting a cedar post out here, one like that, to kind of explain the history of it. Kind of like an interesting fun fact type thing. I know, it sounds crazy, but I mean, there's
what was the cedar post for?
Was it part of the original house?
either that or a fence or something, but it's still standing, like it's still
And I think
standing.
The homeowner who spoke to it, I think
Yes.
he's put it in his yard, and he said it's kind of an understated piece that when people come, he just explains to them. So it's not like an overt piece in his lawn.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I would echo, yes. Right, so in the event an angel wants to
Yeah.
speak on your behalf,
No.
you know, we had, it was mostly great-grandchildren and grandchildren
Yes.
of Minnie Bell and Bob Ross, so they were able to share memories of the grandmother. That was primarily the discussion points that came across. And I think just to make sure the rest of the PR&G is aware, you know, we talked or 2 months ago, about the naming, so the decision made around the family name. And I think, I just want to make sure everyone's aware of their role of inheritance of the land, inheriting the land. And I just want to make sure we don't, correct me if I'm wrong, they're not founders of Marvin, their land is the foundation of what
Yes,
Marvin is.
yes,
Just
right.
to differentiate, that we don't want to
Yes.
identify Mitty as a founder because.
Right,
that's
no,
not
she
the-
wasn't, but she inherited the
inherited
Ross
the
land
Ross
from the
land.
Ross sisters,
Exactly,
so,
so-
and that's where we are today.
Yes, no,
So-
and they're very excited, so I think they've been informed about the naming of the park,
Yes,
correct? So as
and
the
so excited.
community, they are aware that we're going to be naming the park, and I think now, just to make sure we connect the dots, there's kind of an idea of what else can we do in the park?
Yes.
And I think as PR&G, you're looking for us to identify,
Yes,
you know, what would be appropriate as far as incorporating it, but it also has to fit into the overall master plan of
Right.
the things we've been discussing, the sensory, the wounded warrior, all that has to be
yes.
conveyed.
Right, right. One thing that we were kicking around was having a statue to maybe put in the fountain and, of Mitty Bell when she was a little girl, and have, in order to pay for it, have sponsorships with like rocks and family names around that pond, you know, to help us with that. I have no idea what that would cost, but again, that's just a little idea. And I know at some point Austin is going to show us a logo for the park that was created. I don't know when we're going to see that, but at some point.
So, Mayor Pro Tem, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think the conversations about the evolution of the task force were actually conversations maybe you and I had offline, not in a public meeting.
Right,
where-
that's really the topic here, is that.
Yeah, so when I went back and looked at the minutes, I couldn't find where we actually created a task force. So I need some direction from council as to the task force, you know, how it's going to be formed, who those members are, and how that kind of communication piece works from, you know, presenting to PRG more formally, and then to us, like how that whole process is going to work out.
Okay. Do you want me to give you something on that?
Yeah, sure. Mhm.
Okay, I can do that. Okay. So that's,
So you have a group, you're forming it, promote these ideas and bring it back to PRG later.
yeah.
Cool.
Well, and we've got Christina involved with it
Yeah,
too,
I'll
so.
be joining the task force.
Yeah.
And I just want to make note, I did notice some email communications. I know the Historical Society emailed us together.
Yes, yes.
But there also seemed to be one, I think maybe I'm on a mailing distribution where they were playing back the ideas. I just want to make sure that because I don't know who this distribution went to, they're trying to identify some of the discussion points. I don't want to set expectations in the community that haven't been vetted with council and PRG. so-
Right, of course.
But I just want to make sure they're aware as they produce it, because some of the things they listed were ideas for the park, and I thought that's getting ahead of the discussions we're having here. So that's probably why it's important to have this, the parameters, right?
Yes, I just need direction from my board as to how the task force is to be created,
Okay.
who those, and
Well, and is it a task force, or is it more just a working group? You know, I don't know the real definitions amongst that.
No, it's
But a
not.
working group, I think,
Yeah.
is something that's informal enough
That's what it
where
is.
if we have a volunteer from PRG, from Christina, we have a volunteer from council, which would be Angel, and then it can incorporate other non-board members or things like that. too.
Procedurally, if the board were to take an action, that would create a public body requiring agendas, minutes, notices, full open meeting law requirements. For these working groups, they're generally staff-led or vendor-led, depending on the project. They're internal.
so I don't think we need you, we don't need any homework. I'm
Yeah.
saying we can decide that right now, is what I'm saying.
Oh,
So the task force will be created, if that's what council is wanting to happen. And I assume a member of the Historical Society, a member of PRG, and then a member of council would be amongst that membership. That's
yes.
kind of what I'm hearing? Okay. And then the second question is how the task force, work group, whatever it's called, will have their meetings. That communication will be idea generation, and then that will be presented to PRG, which will subsequently be presented to council.
Yeah, I think Angel and Christina from that working group can then determine probably bringing it to PRG first, so that, then they have the direction to give to council.
Is the expectation too, the descendants, obviously we engaged on last week.
Sure.
Are they also part of the task force?
Yes.
But not all, obviously not all 40, but they'll have a identified spokesperson or two, because that's a large group, and obviously they need to have consensus too, but we're not there to build that for them. They
Right.
need to.
Okay, and just so I'm clear, no one on staff is attending these
No.
meetings? And then where will, I guess, I get my information so that I can report back to council officially?
Well, I'll be there, so I can get it to you.
Okay, so I'll just, whenever there's an item, you tell
Yes.
me to add it to the agenda. Got it. Okay, thanks.
And so I think at this point too, just now we have a name, really, it's just finding some more identifiers in the park for
Yes.
recommendations, and I think there was some thought on, what was it, the ribbon cutting, but there's not a whole lot more work, right, because
I mean, mostly, we just needed input on, for example, if we're going to make a plaque and explain, what does Houston Ross mean, and get that from the descendants, and, those types of things.
Do we also need to, I think we talked about the Ross sisters too as well, right?
Yeah.
Where is our source for getting, I guess the historians themselves will come back with that, because we've talked to the descendants, but not necessarily the Ross sister family.
I think there's a lot in from Gene Stowe, who wrote that book
was
and did
actually
the
at that
documentary. I think he's a good resource for some of those things, just to explain who they were, if we're going to put that, memorialized in a plaque or some sort of, thing, so, yeah.
Should he be considered on the ad hoc? Well, I guess not, he's an outside,
He's a volunteer, and
who
if he
very
can
much
come,
likes to be involved,
we would
so
love
he-
to
I
have him.
think it's just,
Yes.
I think if you have the core of PRG and,
Yeah.
and council, and then
And that's
from there,
effectively
you've
what
got
these groups are, they're
volunteers.
volunteers.
Yes, yes.
Just letting you know, to stay on task, we do need to keep moving, stay on time.
Okay. All right, so we want to go to seating options?
Oh, may I do have, I'm sorry, I know, and I will say this quickly, because it kind of ties in, but in talking to Gene, we talked about, and reading his materials, the Eford family was also a recipient. I think the land that Eford Park sits on was part of what was originally
I think this
in the Ross family.
particular piece was
too.
part of the
But-
Eford
So my
property.
question is, we built Eford Park 10, 15 years ago, and it's named after the Eford family, but we don't have anything there that represents the family or any of that land as well. So as we start to build some plaques in the village of Marvin, taken as an action item, should we also propose putting something in Eford Park that recognizes the family and the land that's there? So it's consistent, we have
That's a great idea.
We have a name, but now you go to Eford Park, who are the Efords? So
Yeah, that's a great
And,
idea.
We are
and I
getting
made a
off
mistake,
topic.
I think it was the Ezell,
Ezells,
the
yeah.
Ezell property is the
Ezell,
property
okay.
that we're on, not
So,
Eford.
maybe action item, PR&G.
I'd put it on PRG for a
Take a look
future
for
meeting.
that. But okay, I just want to bring that up.
That's
as
a
we're
great
talking
idea.
About historical plaques.
Yeah, great.
Sorry, I know you want to stay on task, but guys, if we're going to start talking about who owned the land, we have to go a little bit deeper to that and talk about who lived here before all of that, in my opinion. And there are ways that there were actually 4 different tribes, indigenous tribes that lived in this area. They don't own things, so they didn't own it. But I think a little bit of a piece of history in there.
I
And
love
it's
that.
easy enough to find that.
Yeah,
It's-
I love
It's
that.
not just the Waxhaws. So there are 4 different. Yeah, and so I've got it.
I can ask the Marvin Historical Society.
I've
Oh,
got a
you have
website.
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
Because I
Okay.
looked at my house.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Well,
And
that's
so we
great.
overlap, this area overlapped a lot of different tribes, the Catawbas, the Shirahs, the Waxhaws, and the Sugaries.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and it's research, so it's not like
Okay.
I just pulled it out of the air.
Well, I think the more that we can share about history, the better. So that's great.
We will put that on a future PRG agenda.
Thank you for that.
Okay, all right. So we're going to move on to seating options at Houston Ross Park?
No?
We do the signage?
There was 2. There were 2
So,
Houston.
yeah, the next one is the signage.
Oh, sorry.
Event and et cetera, but now that there's this task force, I will defer all of that to you to
Okay.
idea generate and then come back.
Okay.
so.
Okay, we're
Now
suddenly
we're ahead
ahead
of
of
All right,
schedule.
so now we're seating options?
Yes.
I'm
So,
pulling up the image.
Austin's going to pull up a picture. So we, as a part of our Part F application, we do have to have a covered seating option at the park somewhere. Due to the built-upon area, it does need to be a pervious feature so that there's no, water infiltration issues. to increase stormwater. The only option that I could find is the picture that he is going to present before you. It's not a very good picture, but it's an option that we can have like an open pergola to shade. We could put some, some type of
It's really tough.
vines or something. I'll let you guys decide that.
I've got mine. We
To,
can cover that
to
thing.
make it covered. And it doesn't necessarily have to be this big, but we do have to have a covered feature. So this is what we are going to proceed with at a staff level and get staff to build it when that time comes, unless anyone has any other ideas.
So think about the pergola that's at Marvin Eford Park on the entrance there that one of the park guys built. Sylvia built it, right? Sylvia built it. And we've got a vine growing up that, so in the summertime, that it's eventually will be covered with leaves, and in the wintertime, most of the leaves fall off, so then you get a little bit more light. So if that works for you, it's easy.
Yeah, if that level of permeability is suitable to qualify as covered,
Yeah,
then, yeah.
I mean, we can cover it up with some Carolina jessamine and.
Okay,
some
well,
honeysuckle.
unless y'all have,
I mean, it will be covered.
It'll be covered, not only that, you'll have a bloom for roughly 3 to 4 months a year, and it stays evergreen.
Oh,
It's
that's nice.
absolutely-
Well, Carolina jessamine is native too, so.
okay, well, we can come back to that at a later time, but, okay, we're going to proceed with this at some point, just so you guys are aware. And that's all I have on this.
Okay, great. Okay. Next topic is the discussion on the Mike Cognac Memorial plaque and bench, and this is something that PR&G has been discussing for many, many months and recommended to previous council. And I think the idea of bringing this back is to make sure everyone on new council is aware. And John, how do we move forward? Because as we are getting closer to the park, we want to make sure we are incorporating that into the design.
Yeah, and just for the purposes of new folks on council, Mike Cognac was a former councilman and mayor that did serve Marvin for quite some time. During his time, it was when we first started the Marvin Loop, so most of what was originally built and planned, that is already in place of the Marvin Loop, was, part of his and that council's brainchild. Mike unfortunately encountered some health issues, and that he went through for numerous years, and had a long fight with some of those things as he raised and continued to bring a couple of strong young men through all Marvin Ridge High School and everything. They were baseball players, and Mike was the dad that was at everything he could. But he recently passed away a couple of years ago, and the thought was to kind of help to memorialize his contributions, especially toward the loop, as we were getting to the point that we were continuing to expand the loop, at least to Village Hall Park here. And we had the discussion about having some sort of monument plaque or something like that. So I actually came up with some verbiage that we discussed with the family that they thought was appropriate as well. So that's these are some of the ideas that we had for the signage or the memorial of it. And just something that I think we do want to do as we continue to grow as a community is remember those that have made important contributions, even in the face of facing some of life's challenges.
So the previous action of the PRG board was to recommend a memorial in the form of a stone on a plaque on a stone, and a bench to be across from it. We previously put this on hold while we were talking about Houston Ross Park. That's where it's been ever since, because we were seeing if we could work it in somewhere.
So there's also, too, the component of the water feature that you all saw at the very beginning of this meeting, to have like a sitting boulder, and if that comes to fruition, you could put this kind of plaque on that boulder. So that's an option that's floating out there as well, just.
Floating, huh?
Do you want to do a plaque on a boulder or engrave a boulder?
So I don't think we really need any official action right now. We've got a lot of balls in the air on opportunities for this to take place. We just didn't want to lose track of, the momentum that you all had started. So we can put this on a subsequent agenda once we figure out what type of features are going to be there, and then come back to you all at a later date.
Do we have anything, I know we priced benches in the past and they were pretty nominal for what we were going to look at. Do we have any concerns with funding to keep this as part of the overall plan?
So as you all saw, the item before you, before this one was, some type of bench or picnic table. that is included in the funding. For a small plaque like this, it's going to be very nominal. I think we could afford a plaque. Now, if we're talking about, benches and rocks and boulders, that might be a different story, but just the plaque alone and finding somewhere to put it with something that's already existing, I think we could make that happen.
The plaque would be a couple $1,000s probably. The one on Village Hall outside, I think it's bronze. I think it was 3,000 off the top of my head, something like that.
Well, then in that case, yes, we will have an issue with funding. I didn't think it would be that much. Are you sure on that?
It's solid bronze. It's pricey.
Well, I mean, it
And there
doesn't
may be
necessarily
other-
I don't
have
know how
to
big
mean
that
we have
is,
to get
though.
bronze. We could do something like this that's not bronze.
Oh, that's probably bronze.
Okay, well, if it's $2,000 or $3,000, yes, we will have a funding problem.
So whatever it needs to be not to disintegrate.
It looks smaller than this one.
Do y'all need anything from staff at this time?
I don't think so. I think kind
What
of
was that,
need
Bob?
to see like what things look like as they're going in and.
Okay.
Right, well, I think, is that the recommendation? Where to
Probably
put
we're
this?
gonna have to take a little field trip out there and be like, let's put it here.
Yeah. Right, and especially as we have recommendations from the task force for the mini bell component and.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna have all these different little-
Right, it has to be how much, yeah,
Yeah.
like, yeah, okay, like my backyard with lots of, things, yeah.
Yeah, and I just wanted to clarify too, the loop, the Marvin Loop does come through a part of Village Hall, and Village Hall Park is part of the intent there, so.
I think that was originally I mean, the waterscape thing kind of, like Christine was offering, that stone
Yeah.
maybe is one of the options since we had been talking about the stone. But I think our original concept.
Was having a bench off the loop,
in
yeah.
The loop, yeah.
That there, at least on plan, and I assume it's gonna be that way, is there's kind of a little funny little jog right where it meets the sidewalk. And that might create a nice
Stopping point,
place
to
put the
rest, yeah.
stone and the bench on the opposing side. But we'll see, that's kind of what I'm saying, is like, until you see the room, like, where you put the couch.
Right.
I think that was our plan, but we'll see.
Okay.
Really fast, lunch is here if we want to recess briefly to grab food. That is up to the boards.
Why don't,
So close.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, why don't we just
We
finish?
just have two more things.
Yeah,
Yeah, so,
yeah, yeah, okay,
It's not terrible either.
Okay, but please eat before you leave.
okay.
Oh, no, Jill, no, baby, eat.
Okay, so let's go back to the farmer's market then, shall we? So obviously in the survey, and it's been like this for years, people really, really want, so they say, a farmer's market. And I know they can be a lot of work. And so I wonder if the best course of action is to plan maybe a spring event next year to give us time to figure out how to most effectively do that, and maybe do a spring and a fall event and just see how well they go.
I like Jill's, I think it was Jill who said, maybe we should put I hate to make another task force, but find out what people mean by farmer's market.
Okay?
Because I know what I think it means, but maybe somebody thinks it means something else.
Well, and then second to that on the survey, the second most popular thing,
Was
right under
holiday.
that was holiday market. And
Market.
so I'm wondering to what extent the fact that both were there
Yeah.
had people thinking of them as separate things, one is being produce and one is being.
Vendors.
Well, and even,
Gifts.
and
Yes,
even
yes.
craft fair,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
like
a
it
craft
gets
fair,
thrown
yes.
into that,
And I think
yeah.
you said, well, probably all of the above, right?
Yeah.
Probably both.
Right.
So I think that the more things we cover, maybe the more easier it is to stage, because you can pull vendors from different, whatever. But if it's going to be a craft fair, I'm just going to throw out this, or a vendor fair where people are buying gifts or art or whatever, let's try to time it in conjunction with some kind of meaningful gift-giving holiday, like Christmas time or Mother's Day.
Yeah,
Or something like that. So if we're going to do spring,
yeah,
get it going,
like
so that
1st
people
of
can
May.
buy those Mother's Day gifts.
Yeah.
'Cause that's a tchotchke heavy holiday.
It is.
And,
Maybe.
Not Father's Day, just Mother's Day.
no,
Yeah.
for,
No,
yeah, I was
it's
just saying, they're
true.
going to go to the car show for
Yes.
Father's Day. If we could
Yes.
just be wildly stereotypical, but yeah, I mean, Mother's Day, I mean, when you've been on the receiving end, you know. So I would throw that out there, and yeah, I would give us plenty of runway to figure it out. Probably, I don't think we're ever gonna have enough parking to do a really good one here, so I would plan it at Eford.
Park. Okay.
So one of the things, I was going through my John Barasich archives of presentations that were made, that were presentations made back in like 2010. And because we did have a very open and long dialogue. And at the time, one of the things that I thought was important that we realized is that to really do these things properly, you really need to engage someone that's done it before and knows how to do them and is plugged into that community. And I forget the gentleman's name, and I promised myself I'm going to go back. I had his presentation where he talks about all the things that you need to do. But one of the things that's important to realize is that these people, most of them doing a farmer's market, doing a craft fair, however it ends up, they're not really doing it to volunteer and charity. They're looking to make money.
Yeah.
So they're making decisions based on how much a stall costs, you know, what's the traffic. And that's one of the tricks that what we talked about is how you build to that. Because there are certain ones that are on weekends that they're never going to leave. So even when you're looking at the first date you're going to do, you need to know when these people are and aren't scheduled that you're trying to attract to do it.
The competition.
Because most, you can't do anything in 6 months because most of those folks, it's their livelihood, they're booked out a year in advance. So I want us to be realistic in terms of the time frame that it might take to do this properly, but also, like this guy had been involved in the big one that they do in Matthews and Waxhaw, and he knows all the people, all of the vendors. I think we need somebody to help us as we kind of go through this journey that has that experience and understanding to involve in it as well.
100% agree with you. Because I was looking at it from the competition perspective. Waxhaw has their farmer's market every Saturday. You're not going to get any of those people to come here. I mean, I don't think. I guess you could pay them. I don't know. Matthews farmer's market's huge. Monroe's is huger. So, yeah.
You're having to steal and attract people from other places.
Because guess what? There aren't as many as there used to be, sadly, and probably next year there'll be fewer. So that's just one of the issues with that. It's a great idea, and it sounds really cool. But the logistics of it are going to be
I think that's why we've stumbled with it in the past, and I would
particularly for farmers.
And one other piece, we spoke about originally doing it at Marvin Eford Park, and this expert said, you really can't do that. You need a place that people see, because it's an impulse kind of seeing and driving off, and that's why I think at the time we were still even in discussions about getting this property or having this property before there were even plans for a building.
But Waxhaw Farmers Market is not viewable from the road. You have to kind of know it's down there. They put a sign up, but I mean, you drive right past it 5 times.
Yeah.
Please, Deb.
I know, I'm not like a jump in all the time. No, I just wanted to briefly say that when we were working with Tyler and he was implementing all new, events and doing a really great job with it, I started collecting contacts for potential vendors for a farmer's market. So I do have a spreadsheet on that, and I'll continue to do that, but possibly to kind of go along with what John was saying, maybe the farmers markets are tied in with events we're already having, like the car show or the 5K fun run. And because in the past, if who we bring in does not make money, they don't come back. And then that makes our planning all the much more work because we're having to look for more people. But if they know there's going to be traffic, say from the car show, they're going to show up, they're going to have your impulse purchases. Maybe it doesn't matter that we're at the park and we're not in view as people are driving by. So, and to get momentum too, right? If if we're just only hosting a farmer's market, how many people are going to show up? I'm not so sure.
I like that tie-in.
So tie it in with events we're already doing, spread it out, and, try to get these vendors making money so they come back. And then the planning is that much easier going forward.
And they tell their friends.
Yes.
Who tell their friends.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to, also, when I was, what Deb was just saying, is that a few minutes ago when I was like, oh, I made a gesture, I was like, oh, we're the last people standing on the Marvin Day Subcommittee. I meant to include Deb in that. It looked like I was just referring to Jill, but Deb was on that, and this is why she was invaluable. So I just wanted to correct that impression.
So maybe what we do is when you guys have your meeting and talk about things that you'd like to see, and if Marvin Day is one of those things, maybe we plan something with the farmer's market and Marvin Day together in May next year, for Mother's Day, and
Well, if we go
and
forward,
try
so
that.
we had picked, for Marvin Day, we had kind of picked a specific weekend in April because the weather was typically good, and that would be a good lead up to Mother's Day.
Okay.
If we kind of stuck with that, it's been vetted as a date, and it's been working well, except for the odd year when it gets really close to Easter, but those were few and far between. So anyway,
Even the tree lighting,
Well, the tree
combine
lighting
it
would be
with the
great.
farmer's-
We could do one.
the vendor
like,
market.
That
and
would be
people
a
are
great
buying
idea.
Christmas
Yes.
markets.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
vendor. We could do
Yeah.
we could do a holiday market at the tree lighting.
Then you'd bring even more people in.
Yeah, that would be great. But I don't know, we're going to defer to you guys on whether or not we could pull it off this year. I mean, it may be something for next
It's going to
holiday.
take some research on
Yeah.
dates
it's gonna
too.
take more lead time.
Yeah.
We already pulled out of, like Marvin Day vendors and stuff like that. So for the spring, I think we're definitely.
Oh, yeah.
We're definitely
Yeah.
not doing it that.
Yeah.
But if we so we could maybe try to target something in the fall.
Okay.
But like, to John's point, they do tend to have already, as been a past vendor myself, you tend to book out.
Well, they're just now, because I'm a vendor too,
Yeah.
they're just now starting
Are they
to
just
like,
now starting the
they're
sign-ups for
just
some
now
of the
starting,
farmers?
yeah.
It's about 6
So,
months
I
out.
mean, actually, our timing is not bad for Christmas.
Okay.
If we think we can pull it off, and there's no pressure, I just want to make sure that we do it right,
Yeah.
So at
But-
least a 6-month lead time from where we are, perhaps a holiday market we could start to look into.
That could be a good
And the spring,
tester.
Yeah.
the bigger farmers market.
Yeah, and then if we want to revive Marvin Day, not even so much as Marvin Day per se, but as a vendor's market. But
Yeah.
one of the biggest draw of Marvin Day, where it was most successful, is the bounce houses, the face paint, and the magic show.
Okay.
And so we were bringing in just absolutely hordes, well, not hordes, I mean,
Plant
it wasn't
sale.
that well
And then you
attended, but
plant sale.
that was the popular part. That
Yeah.
part was always cooking. And so if we can, if we did end up continuing with that event, or transitioning that event to something more like
Have
this,
those
that
kind of
might
events
be.
with the.
That might be the
More like
co-events
combo
where we
events.
have
Yeah.
people coming to enter, attend their kids, and then shopping
Yeah.
while the kids are
The
bouncing.
Run for the trees.
That's right,
The
run for the trees.
5K for Arbor Day.
There you go. That could, and that's the right timing too.
So
Okay.
just so I'm clear, what are the directions to staff?
None at this time, it
None.
sounds like.
Okay.
PR&G will come back with some more
We're gonna come up with a
recommendations, and,
plan.
as we're kind of looking at that overall plan of events for the coming year, this will be one more that we'll build some criteria around and come back. But thank you for
One of the
bringing
things
that
you
up.
can think about for like farmer's market, sort of, is like farm products. We have a lot of people who have honey
yeah.
hives and things like, soap stuff, like
Right.
that. There's a lot of goat farmers.
Yeah, I
that
would say
make
goat
soap.
soap, honey.
I don't know why.
We could do it with the plant exchange.
Yep. So it's kind of,
It's
like a.
whatever you want.
Yeah.
Season to taste.
Last item up is Plants 101 in 5 minutes. Boy.
No, I'm not doing it in 5 minutes. I'm telling them about it in 5 minutes.
Dude, we're so ahead of schedule.
Yeah, actually, are we still? I don't.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so this was just a suggestion. I think I talked to Bob about it, Nunnenkamp, that I would offer to give council during one of your work sessions, however long you want it to last, because Lord knows I can talk about plants for a while. but I was thinking 30 minutes, to just give you guys an overview of plant type definitions, topics, things that keep coming up that we talk about all the time, but so that you guys know what we're talking about, so we don't have to explain what is a deciduous tree every single time that we talk about it. Not that you need to know that particularly. But if that is helpful to the four of you that are still left, and hopefully the other ones, I'm happy to do that in your, I think it was the next work session.
I think the 16th is what we had decided.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, because our meetings are so incredibly long, if maybe you could put something in writing to us?
I would really rather not do it that way, but
Okay.
I will do it if that's how I need to do it.
We
Yeah.
just
I
need
know
to
your
make sure.
meetings are really long.
It was
yeah.
really long. So I'm trying to
And, you know,
be.
honestly, if you don't think it's important, then I won't waste my time and I won't.
How
waste
long
your-
do you think it would take from a presentation
Well, that's why I
standpoint?
said 30 minutes, but I mean, I guess
Yeah.
I can do the fast version.
So I did put it already on the 16th, the work session. It looks okay right now. That doesn't mean things are going to change after tonight and a couple of days from now. So if you guys want me to just put it on an agenda and just keep pushing it off until it makes sense, I'll be in communication with Christina and we can make
just
that
let me
happen.
know.
If there's a benefit,
Yeah.
that is.
If there's no benefit, then don't need to do it. It's fine.
I've known you forever, since we've been on the boards together, and I still learn something every single time. So I think it would be helpful, and, you know, it doesn't need to be a high priority right now, but if we need to kick it down the road a little bit, I think that's fine.
It's just, it's on the table if you want.
Thank
But
you.
do let me know before like the 15th.
I will.
Okay.
Although I could.
You could be given 30 seconds.
Yeah, but it would just be better if I had.
You'd have
like,
more
a-
visual aids.
Yeah,
if you had
the
it.
pictures would be prettier.
All right, so anything else we need to discuss before we adjourn, council adjourns? It's been a pleasure, y'all. Can I have a motion?
just want to thank y'all for what you do on behalf of the people. Y'all do a terrific job.
Yes, thank you.
Go tell them how great we are.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the village council here on March 2nd at 11:42.
All in favor?
Aye?
All opposed? All right, guys. Thank you so much.
And Christina,
Want to
if,
make a motion or recess?
you can just declare a brief recess.
Okay, we're going to declare a brief recess for the PR&G. And again, thank you, council members, for joining us today and all
Yes,
your
thank
great
you.
thoughts.
See y'all.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, so we
quietly.
Okay, so this is just a continuation from our recess. Okay, reconvening in our unfinished business. First up is the update on trail signage.
Okay, so briefly, you all remember when we talked about trail signage, directional, no motor vehicles, those types of signs? Council had a discussion. At this time, they don't want to do any sort of directional signage. Council definitely is interested in doing signs to prohibit motor vehicles, but they also want to include e-bikes because we're seeing a lot more of those on our trails, and it's only a matter of time until someone gets hurt. So at this time, we're not doing any signage because we need to go back and amend that ordinance to include e-bikes. Yeah, so that'll be a process. That'll be a process. So once we update the ordinance, then we'll come back and consider a sign again, and we'll try to keep them small and simple. And
Will they be on all, so any area that's considered a greenway, both the hard surface and the soft surface?
yeah, anywhere you'd want to prohibit motor vehicles, I would recommend posting the sign.
And then with that too, because we have to state, I mean, I know we're not trying to do Marvin branding at this point on the signs, but we at least have to indicate that it's our
We would
village of
stick a village logo of some kind.
Right, so they know it's coming from us.
Yeah.
Whether it's our Village of Marvin Greenways logo, or if it's just the tree logo.
Okay. Would that be at the trailhead then, most likely, or throughout the trails, or we haven't?
I would assume we would probably just post it at any public entrance.
Yeah, a number of different spots, but,
I just wondered, because obviously, the main issue is putting the message out there on what we're prohibiting, but we also have an opportunity then to identify this as a Marvin Greenway and the
Yep.
same signage too. Okay.
This is mainly just to let you guys know. They had the discussion, it's on hold for a bit, and we'll bring it back to you once it comes back up.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions on that topic for Austin? Okay, thank you. Next up is the Mayor's Monarch Pledge, and good traction going there, Christina.
I know.
Christina, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I will start, and then you'll finish probably. So, on the 24th of February, we updated the HOA presidents who have attended, and it was, I'm trying to remember the neighborhoods. It was about 5 neighborhoods there, which is good. For an HOA presidents meeting, that's really good. Anyway, and so I'm just going to go kind of over what we talked about there. I gave them an update, because there were a couple of new people. I gave them an update about what the Mayor's Monarch Pledge was when we signed it, which was back in December. And then I explained, let me look at this where I can see the slides, because I can't see these stupid things. I let them know about the garden options for residents that we now have for sale, and we'll have for sale probably through the middle of March, so just a couple more weeks, through My Home Park. And we talked about that a little bit. We talked about the fact that we've got the banners in 3 different locations. We're promoting it on the village social media, and we're promoting it on Habitat Builders social media.
Is that something, just for the public that might be watching, that could pop up real quick at the My Home Park?
We can, yeah.
I think it's really cool to have.
We're,
They kind of put it together.
yeah, I can pull
So
up.
that it makes it very easy for you to.
Okay, to that point, then I'll talk about that just a minute then.
We do
Since y'all are
have-
eating anyway.
The village is posting this on Mondays, and we're doing informational Mayor's Monarch posts on, why is that still up? We're doing additional informational posts on Thursdays, and you've got the sale running through March 22nd, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right, you're right.
So Christina, but the shipment will be later, correct? They won't ship till?
You get to choose when you
Okay.
want to have the thing shipped, and so probably, I think it goes from end of March through the end of April.
And you
Is-
recommend towards the later half of April because of
Yeah, the
frost?
middle of April or on, so after the 15th, yeah. So if you go to My Home Park and Marvin Mayor's Monarch Pledge sale, and you can find that on Habitat Builders' website
We've
as
got the
well.
link everywhere.
Yeah, the link is all over the place. And if you'll go, just keep going, and it'll give you a little bit of information about how to do this. But then there are the gardens. There are 4 of them.
Yeah, I've had this tab open, I haven't actually bought it, because I can't decide which ones I want.
So just get one of all.
I know, right?
And we've been doing it in the newsletter including this week for the last 2 weeks. So last Friday and this Friday, we're helping people understand how to prep for putting this in. It's actually really, really easy. My Home Park has got a little video, and they'll show you what you're going to get and all that. So they're a great resource just to help you maintain this. But anyway, if you use Save Monarchs for your coupon code, thank you, then you'll get an extra 10% off, and everybody loves that. So this is a great way to get started. You can buy lots of them. You could buy, you could buy 3 of these and put them all together, put them wherever. Anyway, what's really cool about this is that we've got 2 different HOAs that are talking about, well, one of them, Wyndham Hall, is going to be purchasing, I think, 1 of the, or 2 of the large ones, probably this one, and they're going to start planting these in their berm. So they're going to try one out this year and see how that goes, and then they're going to just keep adding to that. So
And hopefully we can get some pictures.
yeah, I want pictures of them putting them in.
Is there anything else you want me to show?
Huh?
Is there anything else?
That's good, that's good. So, so anybody can buy these. They've got 2 different sizes. There's 4 different gardens. You can mix and match. You could buy 2 different ones and just put them together, and it would be fun.
But you gotta follow the pattern.
Yeah, they do give you this pattern. There's a nice video down below that shows you just how to lay it out and all that kind of stuff. So you can go creative if you want to. Anyway, so Wyndham Hall is going to add 1 of these to their berm and then keep adding those over time. Marvin Creek is talking about taking an area near their roundabout, if you've been through their neighborhood, taking an area, I think it's Briar Terrace, and is that Tom Short? It's just kind of an open area with trees in the back, and they want to add more trees and then add a pollinator garden in front of that. They're also talking, yeah, I know. They're also talking about working on their invasive species because Keith O'Haron was over there and told them that they had a few, and I drove through and they do. I knew he would be right. And so they're talking about doing their own invasive plant projects, removal projects, and then I've been talking to Trees Union about if they could help out with planting the trees and, all of that. So that
And
would be a
this
huge-
was an area that was right next to where they removed like 450 tires,
Thank you
with
for
a
reminding me
giant
of that. So,
project.
Same area. So that was a couple of years ago, several Februaries ago, where, just massive amounts of tires. I don't know how many tons. Bob couldn't remember either. It was a ton of tires. So the HOA things are going really, really well, and
I'm gonna be talking to our Canterfield Creek one as well, so.
she's pressuring her own.
Well, we're in the middle of Marvin Creek and Wyndham Hall, so, it just kind of makes sense that we just have the.
Well, she says that there'll be a pit stop on the way for the,
We'll work towards it.
that's a real thing, though, to have areas that the butterflies can go
So
down.
question, Christina, these are plugs that are coming or real plants?
They are, well, they're still real plants,
I know,
but they're
but I mean,
plugs.
how do you describe to folks
Yeah.
the size of?
So the plants that come with the My Home Park, and if you watch that video, it'll show you exactly what they look like. But it's going to be a flat with 32 plants in it. That's why they sell them in 32s and 64s. And so the plugs are about, what is that? About 4 inches and about 2 inches across. They're larger plugs.
Yeah, those are pretty large plugs.
Yeah, because I've
So
planted
planting
72.
those, having a drill auger would be.
Yeah, honestly, probably a garden knife, and you just kind
pull
of
it back
break it
and-
up. Yeah, because you don't, you need to plant it to the top
But
of
they
the root
seem so
ball.
deep that I don't know that I could get my garden knife in.
Maybe not.
Deep enough and then,
Yeah.
open up a big enough.
Then
I mean,
absolutely auger it.
so
Yeah,
I'm thinking
on a drill.
my drill auger.
You can absolutely do
Dad
that.
said, right tool for the job.
Yeah, it's true, it's true. And that, if it's
Why you
really
call it,
clay
right?
soil, that's a good top, good choice. But that's a good point. The idea about the plugs is that they have focused, those plants have focused on building roots instead of leaves. They do still have leaves, but they are ready to grow. And once you get them in the ground, they will just leaps and bounds ahead of anything like in a gallon pot, and way cheaper, right? Yeah, so that's a good choice for this kind of thing. So that's the plants that are available to anybody who wants them. You don't have to live in Marvin to get them. Anybody can buy them. I've shared it with the Master Gardeners and our newsletter goes out to all kinds of people, Habitat Builders does. So another thing that we wanted to do as part of this was to share this information with elementary school kids, and Marvin Elementary, through Jill's help, she got me in the door there, and I got to talk to 95 second graders.
I would have almost paid to watch.
5 days after knee surgery, so it was really fun. I I was not on any drugs. It was fine. They were a blast. That was a lot of fun. And so we've got this program now for them, for that age group, and probably really kindergarten through third grade, this program would work. And it's interactive, where they have to hold these boards up and they have to tell me answers to questions and all this stuff. And it took about 30 minutes, actually about 25. They were not a lot. They were smarter than I was expecting, so things went really fast. So I maybe have to make the questions harder, I don't know. And then they got some coloring pages, and they got stickers, and everybody was very happy. So, and very well behaved, by the way. The teachers told me they learned a few things too, so maybe they'll buy.
Are we pushing this? I'm not pushing, but are we promoting the site to the families as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the coloring pages were like, nudge, nudge, come to our website.
Oh,
and,
okay,
yeah,
so it had a link.
Yeah, it did. It had a QR code.
QR code.
And then the next thing is social media. I already mentioned that. Austin is doing his best. Habitat Builders is littering the world with this stuff, the e-world with this stuff. And the Master Gardeners are also helping out a little bit too. I've also shared it with Trees Union, and I don't know that they've shared it out, but they know about it too. And we'll continue to do that probably through early summer, and then pick it back up again maybe August, September, because I'm hoping to do this again in the fall, sell more gardens in the fall, because really that's the best time to plant them, would be October, November. We have a speaker lined up for September that's going to talk about butterflies, and she's a professor, was a professor at Pfeiffer, so she'll kind of be techie about it, and it'll be fun. So that'll kind of kick off the season there. Our Habitat Builders, we have a website that's about this, so you can go find that. I've got the HOA, we already talked about that. And then finally, the public parks. So we have two cleanup that we did an invasive plant removal, which is part of the Mayor's Monarch Pledge thing, to do invasive plant removals. We did one of those yesterday, had 7 people for that. That was a lot of fun, actually.
You owe me photos of that.
I do. Danielle's got them, so that is, they did happen. They did happen, because you can't trust me to do it. So we did that, and then we got 2 cleanup days of the pollinator garden at the front of the park. Those will be on the 8th and the 14th from 1 to 3. And we probably will not add any more plants to that pollinator garden, because frankly, there's not really room in there. I would find a little bit of room. But what we are doing is, I'm hoping that Bob can, that he's got one extra spot in the community garden, that I can do one of these My Home Park gardens over there, so people can come by and say, mine doesn't look like that, wonder why. Or
On a
maybe
raised
mine
bed?
looks better, theirs looks
On
better.
a raised bed in the community garden? Okay,
Yeah, so it'll be like it'll be the easiest thing that I've ever done. Yeah. And the other cool thing that Matt and I have been working on, and I need to get back around to this, is we're taking a little bit of there's kind of a goldenrod meadow, sort of bunch of brush and probably Johnson grass, that's over near the back parking lot, and he scalped that. He's probably going to scalp it again, and then we're going to probably kill whatever else is in there. And I've got 2 different seed mixes we're going to try over there, and see how you can just go straight from seed and how that works. They're native plants from reliable sources, so those should work out really nice. And then we've got the garden over here that we're adding the butterfly plants to.
Are we using the plugs, or are we actually doing a different sourcing?
I am not buying them. I'm hoping he's getting plugs. That's what I gave him.
Okay, so it'll be
information for.
consistent with what we.
Well, yeah, some of those things you just can't find any other way but plugs. And yeah, I think that's all the things that are going on with that. When I started writing them down, it was a whole lot more than
you thought.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Well, it all kind of does this at some point or another, right?
There's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
We've still got the garden going in here
Right.
at Houston Ross Park. I'm having a blast making all these stupid little
Oh,
promotions.
your posts are beautiful. They're absolutely gorgeous. Have you done the super butterfly?
I posted that one.
Oh, okay, I haven't seen it yet. It's adorable.
So yeah, I've been working out there. We still have more to come. There's going to be at least one educational sign posted in the garden. Once it goes in, it'll probably just be Mayor's Monarch Pledge, scan here to learn more.
Yeah, and then we'll just hook it back into either your website or mine or both or whatever, and say this is what's blooming now, or however we want to do it.
And we've been updating on the village website. We have a page for the Mayor's Monarch Pledge, and every week after I do some sort of new informational post, I'm going on there and putting more on that page too. it lays out everything that we're doing. We have a lot of deliverables actually to finish the pledge, and we're doing pretty well. We've done a lot of them already.
Well, since we only really needed to do 3, I mean,
We're
3 was
overachievers.
ridiculous number, so low. That's not gonna work. So we got at least 8 or 10.
I think we have to have everything finished by June, so we're well on track.
We're awesome. We're like that little butterfly.
Maybe we'll get, I don't know if they give us anything for when we finish, but
They just don't kick us out of the program. They don't kick us out.
Are we still creating the small little signs for neighborhood, or not yet? Where are
We
going with
haven't
that?
done it, but it's on the list of things. It
Okay.
we didn't
We don't
talk
have to
about
do
it in
that by
there.
June.
But I hope not.
we're gonna have to touch base on signs again. I think we have a
Yeah.
meeting tomorrow, actually. on
Okay,
this.
good. Because what we were talking about is taking the round logo and just like make a little small one and just,
Right.
stick that in there. Oh, and I have given so many stickers away, so many.
I have a lot more.
Good. Those little kids, they love that, on their heads and whatever. That was a hoot. I would do that every day if I could. That was too fun. It's too fun. That's all. That's a lot, but it's all.
Thank you, Christina.
Just-
This momentum has really grown on this. I mean, it was.
And it
what,
was not my idea,
6
so I
months
am
ago,
really
you were
happy.
just making it, but you really connected us, especially with this whole My Parks, My Home Parks. I think that really
we
says
got
a lot
lucky
and
there,
how
yeah.
easy it is for folks to do.
Exactly.
So.
And that was the idea, to try to make it easy. One of the ways we were going to do this is that we were going to make those little
Yes.
gardens for everybody. And I'm like, oh my God. We thought Friendship Tree was hard.
Will you be able to get a report back from them, how many are sold, and maybe what the locations are, geolocate the,
That'd be cool, right?
If anyone plants any gardens, we want photos, so
Yeah.
we'll
Okay,
gladly
that's-
highlight resident gardens. So.
That's a great, yeah. Well, we know we can get Marvin Creek and Wyndham Hall to do that, so, and I will do it if I put one at other park. That'd be cool.
Do you want me to talk to Brian, the GM over at Firethorn, to see
Yes.
if they would put
Yes.
something in? Because they're always changing things. Well, actually, that might be the HOA, 'cause the HOA.
I think it's probably the HOA, yeah, that does the,
But maybe they would put something in at the tennis court.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be the front monument, but,
No.
put one somewhere.
Maybe it's 2.
The butterflies don't care where you put it. And the difference between this and what most landscapers are planting around, monument areas and stuff, those are usually perennials, annuals with some shrubs that never change, little meatballs. These are perennials, so they're gonna have a seasonality to them. Sometimes this will be blooming, sometimes that'll be blooming, sometimes everything's dead. It's called winter. And we're going to learn about that together, apparently.
Yeah.
Go look at Marvin Eford Front Park right now, and you will know what dead looks like.
Well, even just the front here, when I was walking in, I'm like, I need to come in and do some pruning.
But I
It
mean,
was time for the
so
winter
one of the
cleanup.
ladies asked me,
That iris over there is just.
oh,
that's
they
great.
just look
Well,
crappy
they
right now, don't
need to be
Yeah.
divided and
Mine too,
spread
yeah.
around, which would be great.
No,
We'll get
that
more,
would be- yeah, that's exactly what I would
but
do.
right now, it just looks like a massive.
Well, if you want to
Yeah.
make yourself feel better, go over to Marvin Eford Park and look at the pollinator garden, and you
Oh,
can
it
go,
looks-
oh my God.
It looks like we're ready for some cleanup, but yeah.
It's ready for cleanup. Well, one of the ladies yesterday said, why do we have to clean this up? I love the way it looks. I'm like,
That's why it's hidden behind the
Julie, I
tree.
love you, but we have to clean it up or we'll get kicked out.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for all your leadership on this program,
no
too.
worries.
And Austin, too, the communication, I mean, I even found it very easy, too. I was trying to find a link, and you make it very accessible, so
We tell them,
thank you for that.
every day, all the time, right? Buy this, buy this, buy
No,
this.
it's great. I think that's it as far as overall unfinished business. We don't have anything, new business items? Nothing else there?
I think we kind of.
Yes.
Just one thing that I did want to mention to folks is coming back to our agenda a few months ago, we accepted a fee in lieu regarding a trail over at the Heritage at Marvin. And I've recently had conversations with a lot of those folks that really kind of have expected that trail might already be built. It was actually a natural piece that goes in coordination with the paved part that was out front. But it would loop in back around to the cul-de-sac on their neighborhood. So just something from a council standpoint that we've been hearing from those new residents that, I think we took the fee in lieu because we were wondering, there's the pocket park there and things like that. But I just want to express very much that there's a groundswell of, a large groundswell of the residents that are really looking to have that trail implemented. So I'll be discussing it more. We're going to talk about it on council, but just wanted to give you a heads up about that.
Can I add something to that? 'Cause I
This is
know-
not on the agenda. We don't have this on the agenda. We-
Okay, then I'll tell
It
him.
needs to be on the
Yeah,
agenda.
I'm just trying to let you know that we're going to talk about it at council. Yeah,
And perhaps in the future, next meeting, we'll have an update.
Correct.
Understand.
Yeah.
Okay. So no new business? Oh, I think that's, you're saying it would have to be on the agenda.
it needs
I
to
see
be
what
on
you're
the
saying. That
agenda.
can't just be, I'm sorry. And review of action items, Austin.
So you guys have a couple things you're going to talk about in the future, possibly a plaque at Marvin Eford Park to explain the reason behind the name. Also talking about Native American populations. You guys are going to talk about event planning for the future and how you may incorporate a farmer's market or a vendor market. And you guys are now developing some sort of a grass plan.
The grass plan. And also, the grass plan.
I think we also talked about the events, kind of the event overview, criteria and schedule calendaring.
Yeah, event calendar.
So other than that, that's all I have. Your ongoing list is just for Hunter to talk about the golf cart ordinance. Obviously, that is not important right now.
Okay.
So you're good to go on to board member comments.
Okay, great. And again, opening it up, I know this has been a long meeting, but a lot of great feedback. Anyone else have comments to add?
I do, more than anything, just, I was fortunate to be a part of this board for such a long time and chairman of the board, but just very much a thank you to each of you because, the extent to which the volunteerism that we have here in Marvin, I just really want to let you know how appreciated you are in taking the time to come forth and do these things. And, many of you put your blood and sweat into it too. It's not just sitting on your duff at these meetings, and that's really appreciated, not just by council, but, sometimes the residents, whether they know or they don't know, there's a lot of hard work, consideration, and thought that goes into the recommendations and things that we make, and it's very much appreciated.
Well, thank you for saying that. That makes us feel good.
Anybody else?
Let's go weed something.
Oh, gosh, okay. Well, again, no, and thank you again. It's a great group to work with. I feel excited, even just kind of the circling around with the survey results, because we spent so much time, gosh, a year ago, Jen, under your leadership to get the survey together, and now to be able to have that information, because, it seemed like so long out that we were waiting and waiting for this, and now we have it in our hands, so I
Well,
feel.
yeah, and it's kind of hard to look at, we had that as the agenda item, it was like, what do you want to talk about? And I think it's going to be important every time we talk about something to refer back to. It's
Just like
it's-
Austin is doing
Yeah,
with
it's
his
difficult to
post.
take it as a whole.
Right.
I mean, there were a couple things that were so unpopular that it's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
no aquatic center, got it. But, you had to put it out there because there was talk. Yeah, to have that as a guiding light going forward, to be able to reference back, even if we have to try to figure out what farmer's market is versus holiday market and whatever.
Yeah.
I think we can manage, but it's nice to have that feedback.
Yep.
Very good. All right, well, thank you, Austin, for your support through this, and with that, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 12:19. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.